Indeed, we can only give thanks to the Lord for yet another day is upon us. A good morning to you, cherished viewers. You are welcome to the Koko Digest Morning Show. I am your host for today, Yayura Awuno. We are coming to you live from the studios of Clock TV, and you can also catch us on Go TV channel 184. And if you are on the move, you can join us on social media, particularly on Facebook and on YouTube. We have a live stream going on there, so you can just search for Clock TV GH, like, share, and subscribe to our pages, and then join in the live stream. Now, here's what to expect for today's conversation. As on the business segment, we're going to be talking about how Ghana has exited the IMF bailout and what it means for the ordinary Ghanaians and also our economy. And then on the main discussion, we're going to be talking about gambling and, mental health, as the month of May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So yes, that's why I'm also in purple. We are trying to create as much awareness as possible. So you realize that the conversations we've had over the past few weeks have been centered around mental health. So yes, as people, engage in all kinds and all forms of gambling, what does that translate to? What impact does it have on their mental health? This is something that I'm sure lots of the youth are also dealing with and would be interested in, listening to. Yes. So please call a friend, text a friend to tune in and then hear something and, take some steps to prevent themselves from becoming addicts when it comes to gambling. Now, for now, let's also prepare for the motivational quote, and then we get into our online and print review with the weather report as well. Right, so today's motivational quote is by John Steinbeck, and he says, "A sad soul can kill you quicker than a germ. A sad soul can kill you quicker than a germ." Now, this quote highlights how deeply emotional pain can affect a person's overall well-being. While germs can harm the body, prolonged sadness, stress, loneliness, or emotional suffering can also quietly damage both the mind and physical health over time. It reminds us that mental and emotional health deserve the same care and attention and compassion as physical health as well. It is reminding us that mental and emotional health deserve the same care, attention, and compassion as physical health. So, like I said, the month of May is for mental health awareness, and as John Steinbeck is telling us that a sad soul can kill you quicker than a germ, we also need to make sure we pay attention to our mental and emotional or psychological health as well. So we are doing our best here on the Koko Digest Morning Show to educate and inform ourselves about the dangers of mental health disorders which are left unchecked. So this is the quote for today: "A sad soul can kill you quicker than a germ." So it's not just the physical health that we should pay attention to, but mental health as well. Up next is the online and print review with the weather report. Let's stay tuned. Yeah, welcome back to the Koko Digest Morning Show. And if you're just tuning in, it's time for our online and print review. But before that, we'll take our weather reports for today with Peter Nsia, and then it gets interactive as the week has begun with my co-hosts here with me. I have Beverly Annobel and Peter Nsia joining me. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning, Aria.
I hope you're well.
Up and grateful.
Divine selection. Right, Beverly, what about you?
I'm doing great. As you can see.
Yes, very, very great. Yes, we're glad to have you here. So, Peter, it's rained, and as much as some of us were happy, it also was quite devastating. So, what does GMET have to say about that?
Okay, so as usual, as GMET has been doing, today, like you said, the possibility of it raining here in Accra, Flower, is high. So, GMET says we should expect rain this morning. And then, as usual, in the afternoon, it's going to be sunny. But as I like to do it, let me take viewers through the specifics so that they will be on guard wherever they are. And so it should be on your screen by now. Yeah. So today, this is the weather report from Ghana Meteorological Agency. And today, this morning, GMET says that the people of Aflao, Accra, there is a chance of rain, 30% chance of rain this morning. So the people of Aflao and Accra should take note. Kaswa is going to be mostly cloudy. The people of Cape Coast, Takrade, Axim, there's also a 30% chance of rain this morning as well. The people of Koforidia, Kimboda, Kumasi, and Obuasi, it's going to be misty. GMET says the people within that area should expect misty condition this early morning. And the people of Ketekrachi and Kintampo, it's going to be partly cloudy. Gosu, Sunyang, and Techimai, 40% misty condition. The northern region remains partly cloudy and mostly cloudy this morning as well. So as the day progresses into the afternoon, the people of Aflao, Accra, Cape Coast, and Takrade should expect sunny intervals. It is going to be sunny with the temperature ranging from 30 to 32 degrees Celsius as well. As usual, as GMET has been advising, and myself and my colleagues have been advising as well, whenever it's sunny, you should ensure that you take in more water, carry umbrellas with you, as Yaira will say, and also ensure that you reduce your exposure to the sun as well. And as the day progresses as well in the afternoon, the people of Takrade, Axim, Ho, Koforidia, and Kumasi, should expect rain. There's a 40% chance of rain this afternoon for the people there. And the people of Goso, Sunya, and Techimai, this afternoon, it is going to be sunny with a temperature ranging from 30 to 35 degrees Celsius as well. But the northern region remains sunny as well, with the temperature ranging from 34 to 36 degrees Celsius. It means that that side is going to be very, very scorchy as usual. And then in the evening, Aflao, Accra, Kaswa, and Cape Coast, GMET says there's a 40% chance of rain. That's thunderstorm as well. So even if it doesn't rain, there's the possibility of that thunder, the wind, and all that. But there's a 40% chance of rain. And the people of Cape Coast and Takrade is going to be mostly cloudy. And across Ho, Koforidia, Kumasi, through to Tamale, Yendi, Techima, and Goso, Ketekrachi, and its environs, there's also 40% chance of rain. That's thunderstorm and the like. So it's the possibility of we experiencing wind and some drizzling and all that is 40%. And the people of Wa should also expect 40% chance of rain. And the people of Nelerugu and Bolegatanga, it's going to be partly cloudy. So basically, Ira, today across most parts of the country in the afternoon, it is going to rain, and the remaining part, especially the northern region, it is going to be sunny as well. And so viewers should take note and act accordingly. But there's a change. Usually, we say that the state of the sea is either normal, but today GMET says that the state of the sea is dangerous. And as you can see on your screen, whenever there's red, it means that you have to take action. And so our fisher folks, GMET is saying that today the state of the sea is dangerous. And so I would advise that you don't have to go at all because it means, the red means take action. And once it is dangerous, it means that it poses serious risk. And so we will advise that, if possible, you don't go. And as usual, on Tuesdays...
some cultures, don't go fishing on Tuesdays.
Yes.
And then Thursdays is for farming.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe the sea is also complying.
Yeah.
Right, thank you so much for the weather report. So let's just take note and also take action. Now, so that was presented to us from the Ghana Meteorological Agency, a 24-hour impact-based forecast. Now, for the word for the day, we have the word graciousness. Now, graciousness simply means being kind, polite, and respectful. Now, it also means, again, kindness, courtesy, warmth, and a polite generosity towards others, especially in behavior, speech, or attitude. So this is the word for today. And the words that are similar in meaning to graciousness, we have kindness, we have courtesy, we have politeness, we have gentleness, warmth, civility, consideration, generosity, thoughtfulness, and benevolence. So these are some of the words that are similar in meaning to the word graciousness. Then the words that are opposite in meaning, we have rudeness, we have harshness, we have cruelty, we have discourtesy, we have meanness, we have arrogance, hostility, impoliteness, coldness, and unkindness. So these are the words that are opposite in meaning. So if someone is not gracious, then it means they are rude or harsh or mean or arrogant. So let's just take notes. Let's add this word to our vocabulary and also endeavor to practice the art of graciousness. Let's be gracious in our words, in our actions, and our attitudes towards people. So yes, my co-hosts, do you have any bars for us?
Oh, today there are no bars, but the word is self-explanatory. Being gracious is the best gift ever you can give to your fellow human. I love the word though. It's self-explanatory. I don't think I would have to give, but I'm still rehearsing. But next week I'll give some bars because I think I've seen that the music industry, those who are into music are actually enjoying it. It really pays. So maybe in the next 5 years I'll be also receiving awards, Artist of the Year and all that. Already, Sarkodie is. I told you he actually warned me not to. He has seen the light. But I'm not stopping.
Right. So, Beverly, what about you? Any takes on the word graciousness?
I think it's a very nice word. I think for every human being, or for every lady, or for every woman, one virtue for you to take is you being pleasant towards others, you being gracious. Okay. It doesn't matter, even in the smallest form. People are actually nice to, people like to worship wealth. Let me put it that way. But this morning, I just want people to understand that you don't only, worship people that, you think that they have the money or they have the finances. If you see somebody that you think, we are human, so it's quite okay just being kind and polite and see pleasant words to someone. You meet somebody at the door, someone you don't know, a stranger. You just open the door, for the person to pass. It's not. It doesn't matter. It won't take anything or it won't add anything to your name. Just a simple good morning. You are sending a text message to somebody. Such a simple good morning. How are you doing? Won't add or take anything away from you being gracious. So this morning, this is the message I have to say.
I like something you said. So sometimes the opposite sex, and you made mention of ladies. Sometimes you see someone and you just want to be gracious to the person. Just say kind words, just say hello, and then it turns to a different thing. Now, so I like the fact that you said that. Kindness. It happens a lot.
Right. I'm not going to comment on that before we go into a different conversation. Right. Thank you so much. So yes, moving into the online and print review, the first thing I would like to inform us about is that we can send our comments to the number displayed onto our screens. That is for WhatsApp and SMS only. When the phone lines are opened, I will also alert you so you can call and weigh in on the conversation. And then also, you can send your comments to the YouTube or Facebook live stream as well. Now, the first thing here is just to, give us a brief overview of the flooding issues. We know that nowadays, when it rains, for a period of time, or when there's an amount of rain, we tend to become prone to floods. And Ghana continues to face recurring flood challenges, especially during heavy rainfall seasons, affecting homes, infrastructure, and livelihoods. Now, this discussion is going to be focusing on the preparedness of NADMO. So we're going to have NADMO, in the conversation. We're going to engage the Director of Inspectorate Department, at NADMO, Mr. Richard Amoyate, very soon. And we're going to be exploring the effectiveness of the early warning systems, emergency response, coordination, and community sensitization efforts that have been aimed at reducing the impact of the floods. So we're also going to be considering some of the gaps in resources, response time, and preventative measures. Now, while we are also going to be highlighting some of the strategies that we need to strengthen the resilience of people and also the institutions, and also protect vulnerable communities. So we'll be speaking with Mr. Richard Amoyate shortly to, talk about the floods and what to do. These times are very trying times for some people in our community, some through no fault of theirs, and some also a collective, what's the word I'm looking for? Misbehavior of Ghanaians as a whole, the pollution issues. So we need to open ourselves to a lot of education and desensitization. But now let's get into the trends. What's happening? What have you picked up? Was there any new TGMA somewhere?
I think you have to start with the newspaper.
Okay.
Before we get to the trends.
Okay, so I have with me the graphic business. And on the front page, the big story is local content, not importation. Local content, not importation, by Ken Ashibe. And so there's a very interesting story. So when you get to the graphic business, you can read through and find out what exactly Ken Ashibe is insinuating. We also have on page 2 of the graphic business, we have Ghana's digital backbone comes under strain, with the Minister for Communications and Digital Technologies picture there. And we also have Ghana exits IMF program early, signs non-financial view, and that can be found on pages 8 and 9. Basically, on the business segment, as Yaira said, we'll be diving deeper into this as well. We'll be looking at what next for Ghana's economy, businesses, and the ordinary Ghanaian. And as we've exited, there's another program which actually links to IMF as well, which is the PCI, that is the Public Coordination Instrument. And so we'll be looking at what it actually means and how that is going to impact on the economy as well. And then we also have another story that can be found on page 15. That is Chamber of Mines opposes rejection of Goldfield lease extension. And so you can get the graphic business and read through. These are exciting stories. Yara, that is what I have on the graphic business.
So, Beverly, what about you? What, newspaper do you also have for us?
Well, I have the daily graphic with me, but before then, we all know that recently the health sector has been trending based on different diseases that has been seen going. So during the 79th World Health Assembly, I think that's the main reason why the health issues are trending. So on the front page of the daily graphic, we have President unveils homegrown healthcare funding. 3 billion Ghana cedis unlocked from uncapped NHIS. We also have here, Ministry of Health is set to recruit 6,000 volunteers for free primary health care. We're just looking forward to it, and we're just hoping that health, practitioners, they are going to, take advantage of this to take them to the next level. And we also have here $1 billion Koko financing plan to deepen domestic bond market. This from Bank of Ghana. This is what they have brought to us. I think this is what we have. Yeah, we are looking forward to it.
All right. So if we want to, read more on these, let's find the Daily Graphic and Graphic Business newspapers, and then, get some more information on that. So, yes, like I asked, what other bits of news have you picked up, over the weekend?
Yes, so over the weekend, a lot actually transpired, and we've seen, like you rightly said, from the health perspective and what have you, and it was reported that Ebola has also started again somewhere in DR Congo, but we shouldn't shake because it is not yet here in Ghana, but the Ministry of Health is saying that it has put in measures in place to ensure that it doesn't get here. But away from that, there is something that I'm so worried about, and over the weekend I was thinking about. You see, over the years since independence, even before independence, Ghana has enjoyed this kind of respect and recognition in the international world, taking into consideration our sports, our music, culture, entertainment, and what have you. And so many people will tell you that whenever they get the opportunity to travel outside, and they mention that they are from Ghana, the kind of respect that they get, the kind of opportunities that they are exposed to. Mostly, one of the things that the privileges some people enjoyed and they shared on social media is the fact that one person went to United Arab Emirates, and then he made mention of the fact that he's from Ghana and that he knows a Sabuajan, and the kind of privilege and that, And so over the years, that has been the image Ghana has been able to project out there. But it's quite unfortunate that this month, specifically this week alone, we've heard issues about cybercrime and what have you, which of course is impacting on Ghana, the image of Ghana negatively in the international world, and also for the fact that we are open for investment. We are looking for investors to come down to Ghana to actually invest in the country to create more jobs and what have you. Even following what the ratings, is it Moody's or S&P rating Ghana from B- to B+, which actually says that investors can actually come to Ghana and invest. The risk is low. But looking at this image, there's CSM, there's romance scam, and what have you. It's kind of, putting Ghana on a negative image. There are some countries when you mention, fraud.
Yeah.
Like our brothers.
And so I am of the view that the authorities should put measures in place to ensure that this kind of thing, comes to an end. The most, sad aspect of it is the current one about MP who has been detained. But for now, our sources and from Parliament as well, they don't know the reason why actually he has been detained. And then over the media, people, educated people who are into diplomacy and the law have spoken about immunity and what have you, but still we are waiting for the outcome of it. And I see that some of these things can, damage the good reputation we have internationally. Right. And I think that if it is because of unemployment in the country, it should be dealt with immediately. If it is that there are weak enforcement in terms of cyber security, it should be dealt with completely because most of the youth are into this. Recently, we heard that three people, twins from Ghana and one person based in the United States, are into that. And then the sad story about a mother and son who together are, exploiting kids. Yeah. And then the East Legon issue. I mean, if an investor is to come into Ghana, they don't only look at the economic risk, but they look at the reputation of the country as well. So in as much as we are fighting to ensure that our economy is good and it's ready to welcome investors, we have to also look at the reputation as well. Because these days, our musicians are doing well. Yesterday, I read that Shatawale received 2 awards from an international organization. And also these 2 young people, Dope Nation, Kakalika, all around
They've gone far.
They've gone far. And so this is actually projecting Ghana, putting Ghana on the map. But it is sad that other things are trying to, drag the name of Ghana into the mud. And so this morning, I'm just pleading with authorities, the communications experts, the cybersecurity experts. They should deal with the situation. If it is unemployment, we know that unemployment is high, and so the youths tend to do whatever at all. But there are certain things. Bible says, yes. So we shouldn't indulge in certain things that will drag the name of Ghana in the mud.
With this point also, in some conversations with a few people, over some time, we talk about the fact that some of these things always have to be traced to a root cause. And you realize that even with some of these nations, in general, countries that have a higher percentage of the citizens having their basic needs met are not likely to indulge in these things. Let's have an example. Even though maybe US is not the best example, but let's use the US. You would realize that maybe the rate at which people are involved in these scams is not as high as maybe Ghana. It's not as these are all just contextual anyway. Comparatively, it may be high also, but maybe when we compare them, or let's use some of these Scandinavian countries that we hear that, let's say Finland is the happiest country on earth. Healthcare is free, education is free. You're not likely to hear cases of people, indulging in these kinds of scams, even though it is possible, maybe for greed reasons and all of that. So you see that it's back to the issue of poverty. I remember someone were talking, and then the person was saying that most African countries are impoverished to the point where we are now only, the least improvement in our lives is just for survival. It is not even to the point where you can relax and say that I'm okay. Because you see sometimes when these hospital issues happen, they say you are just one crisis away from abject poverty. You are just one ailment away from losing all the money you have in this life because of the standards of living or the cost of living. And so when we are able as a nation to get to the point where people can have, all their needs met and have some money, like the Bible would say that, a man should leave something for his generations to come and all of that way. Because we all make those jokes that I'm saving money, but the money is also saving me, So with all of this, you realize that a lot of people are in survival mode. A lot of people are looking for the next thing to survive because someone is sitting here, they have rent, food, school fees, all of these things to pay, and they barely even have a job. This is not to justify these things, but you realize that they are doing that. That's notwithstanding, there are people who are doing this for, social media gratifications and all that. I mean, I'm not speaking for them because we know why they indulge in these things. But you see the stories of those young guys who are just at their wits' end, and then they go as far as even agreeing to do some ritualistic practices to be able to put food on the table, and it's all because of poverty.
But looking at the records and what we have gathered so far, I think the people doing that, they don't look like they're in dying need. That's one thing we have
that's
to
why
look,
I made
we have to look at.
a sort of dichotomy that there are some people who are doing it because they want to flaunt a certain lifestyle, social media validations and all that. But then I'm talking about the people who are usually the scapegoats, the ones who are not supposed to engage in these things, and they may not know how well to do it, and then they end up getting arrested. These, you see that you see the pictures and you realize that this is not somebody who was doing this for social media gratifications. This is not Hash Papi and Hajia For You and the rest. No, not those people. But the younger boys who are just trying to make ends meet. Those are the people I'm focusing on with these issues that is usually out of poverty.
And then you're right. It can also be as a result of influence and, what they want to become in society. And so this argument about as to whether social media is doing as good than harm, we should pick it up again, because like you rightly said, most of these people that we see them on social media, they are all good, they are all rich and everything, but we do not know the outcome, and we just admire them from far away. We
don't know the source of their wealth.
We want to become like them, and so I think it's high time. And so I like what Otumfo said, something that Otumfo warned Ghanaians to be careful about glorifying riches. When he was speaking at the business leaders conclave, he famously advised, "Do not admire wealth without asking how it was made. Do not admire power without asking how it was used." And so basically, I think that with the prevalence of social media, and I mean, every household has a smartphone and can access social media. And with some of the contents that we see on social media, it's quite, sad that it puts pressure on the young people.
Right.
So you putting poverty aside, the influence from social media also is a lot. We've heard stories that people go as far as renting cars, renting houses to just flaunt on social media, and kind of put pressure on the young lady who is looking up to this, so-called celebrity out there. And so I think it's high time we have a candid, conversation. People are really trying. Young people are really working. But just that people come to say that, oh, when you just do A and B, you will get this. But the young person somewhere is working, doing more than that, but he's not getting the outcome of that. And so that leads to,
the desperation and
understand.
Serious. And it makes them also gullible and susceptible to these kinds of influence. Yeah. I think when I was coming to work today, I was on social media and I saw a video of a guy talking about Galamsey, that he dropped out of joining the Galamsey trend because he realized that apparently they kill some of the people. Yeah. So some of the strangers who come that they want to do these things. And until some of these dangers are exposed, you would see that people are going into all kinds of things. So you see that some of the casualties we hear of, what if this was just one young man who thought, okay, maybe this is a business avenue I can venture into for a while to make ends meet. So he was talking about the fact that Galamsey is not an option. Yeah. Rather, it's better to learn a trade and preserve your life. Yeah. Because we hear of drownings, we hear of the pits collapsing and all kinds of things. And, from his perspective, where it may be that they are using you for sacrifice, or it could be that maybe they don't want more people to come and saturate the business. So you see that even with this issue where people are joining all kinds of vices, they are still even at a risk, putting themselves in all kinds of danger. Because look at this ritual issue. The rituals that are real, some of them even run mad before they get one CD.
It's serious, and it's something that we need to deal with. Like you rightly said, what you said is an open secret. I was privileged to school in the Western region where Galamsey is at its peak. Those days, that is what they say. Before they can get money, they have to sacrifice one of them to actually get money and all that. They tell you it's all about spirituality. But I know we are not talking about Galamsey, but there's something I want to talk about. You see, the fight of Galamsey has become so difficult to the extent that we don't even get to hear of our people again, Naimos and the Blue Water Guards and all that. Because, I was privileged to have a conversation with someone who is in that area. And then the person told me point blank that, no, the fight against Galamsey is going to be very difficult because it has been politicized. The previous administration, when they were in power, some people there, because they say they belong to party ABC, they do things, they involve themselves in the illegal, Galamsey and what have you, without being punished. And so once there's change of power, those people are now not on the ground.
Right.
And
have different set
of people are also on the ground. So they are just waiting for change of power and then they will go back. And so if drastic, approach is not taken, it is going to be very difficult. And I think that, we talk about IMF and fiscal discipline and what have you, because we are not able to discipline ourselves to the extent that we're able to sustain our microeconomic, gains, and we actually invite foreign people, IMF, to come and ensure that we are disciplined and we are able to enjoy some form of liberty. I think that going forward, authorities should look into that and get foreign power or something to ensure that Galamsey become a thing of the past, because it looks as though we've tried all our best
and still, nothing is working out. I would like to applaud the FBI, for putting things in place. Honestly, like the collaboration actually helps, because looking at the records that we have now, since there are more people. It looks like there are more people, and honestly, they are using all they can, like ways and means to, get the people. Because imagine, taking money or lying to somebody in the late 70s. Oh, come on, these are old people, and I don't understand why these people. Mostly we say like the foreigners, or let's say the white man is quite intelligent, and I keep asking myself, why do they keep falling in the traps of these people? And honestly, I learned that even when they get the money, they'll have to even send to like somebody in the US for them to transfer the money. So how do they pull that kind of
they prey
amounts
on
down here?
Certain people. So like you're saying, these older or elderly people, some of them may be
vulnerable.
And so posing, some of them even pose as a girl, and you chat and all of that, and promises of a relationship or romance and all of that. And some of them actually even I think there was this running joke about, they'll say, a Nigerian prince, and he says he's been locked up somewhere. He has riches back in his country, so you should lend him some money so he can sort his affairs out, and then when he gets back, he will double it for you. So it's more like, bring a little and come for more. Yeah. So some of these people thinking this is a good investment opportunity, and I use investment loosely in this situation, they fall for these kinds of things, and by the time they realize, someone has absconded with their money. Now, speaking on the Galamsey issue, this apparently didn't make a lot of waves, but I'm seeing that on other news media houses, and it says there's a temporary shutdown of the PEVE treatment plant due to extreme turbidity levels. This is by the Ghana Water Company, and this is also most definitely in relation to Galamsey. So yes, we've been talking about the Western region, Ashanti, Central, Bono, all of that. These regions have been affected by Galamsey. Now we are also finding out that it has found its way, one way or the other, to the Volta region as well. And the Volta region is where, we like to sort of associate our lake, So now that PEVE treatment plant has been shut down, it means that, whatever communities that are around, in and around PEVE, the PEVE community or jurisdiction, are going to be suffering when it comes to getting potable water to drink and to use. And there's a press release, but because of time, I may not be able to read everything. But yes, the turbidity level of the water is quite high, probably too high for the treatment plant. And this is as a result of the cancer that is Galamsey.
Because of this Galamsey, people are not even going to heaven. Because people
are not going to heaven.
In relation to the fact that the man of God says because of the turbidity level of the water, they can't
even baptize.
And so we believe that if you are not baptized, it means that you are not going to heaven. So most people are not going to heaven if you don't stop Galamsey. I mean, that's literally.
Yes, that's just by the way. I hope.
And I have another trend. So over the weekend, Nigeria, in collaboration with FBI again, FBI. Oh, not FBI. This was Interpol. Yeah, they came together to. So let me read what I have here. A major breakthrough came with the reported killing of senior Islamic State commander Abu Bilal al-Miniku during a joint U.S.-Nigeria operation. The report described the mission as a complex and intelligence-driven. So, like when we were young, we used to hear, what's the name of it? Is it Boko Haram? Those kind of terrorists in Nigeria. And when it comes to issues like this, the US are very passionate about it, So I think they've been planning this for a very long time, and now they've taken their second commander, as we've been to the Abu Bilal al-Miniku. They've taken him down now, but I keep asking myself, why do they keep doing it? Because when you look at the rates of kidnapping in Nigeria alone, again happening these days, it's serious, and it keeps happening all the time.
And with these terrorist groups too, there are conspiracy theories about them being funded by supposed institutions that claim to also, be trying to curb this issue of, Islamist terrorists or just the use of terrorists in general. And I think there was a time where the terrorist attacks were more rampant. And, even with our Nigerian brothers, they were saying that their own leadership seems to be in bed with these people as well. And it's strange and actually very sad, because what does this seek to achieve? Even if it is for, acquisition of arms, and maybe it's an investment opportunity for somebody investing in arms for these terrorist groups. What about the lives of the citizens? What about if you yourself, your own family, becomes victims to something that you are also perpetrating?
I mean, so when it comes to issues like this are very sensitive. And like you rightly stated, when it became rampant and when it became the talk of countries, the Islamic people came out to say that they don't like to be associated to terrorism, and so we have to make that one known. And issues like this, it stems from different sources, like you rightly stated some. maybe if it is worth whatever thing it is, but it is something that we don't have to, to relate. And then I like the fact that, as Beverly said, there are security agencies in collaboration with international bodies, Interpol and what have you, as they are working tediously to ensure that it becomes a thing of the past. And I mean, we all deserve to live peacefully without any form of, fear and what have you, because like you rightly said, over the years in that country, we've had continuous, kidnap and a whole lot, which is very bad. And I know the whole world is against that. And I believe that with time, we'll be able to eradicate some of these things. But as it stands now, we just have to come together as countries, as security agencies to make sure that we eradicate it.
Is it really with time? Because the Bring Back Our Girls campaign, we heard that it wasn't all the girls that were returned up till now. How many years ago? And we heard of another school kidnapping. And for some reason, it's almost as if some nations are helpless to these people, these terrorists, to the point where even, I think when you watch some of the stand-up comedy, I usually watch those, you realize that there are even jokes made about certain areas, certain states. If you go there, you are most likely going to meet, these people. And you are even at the risk of being kidnapped, For it to become a joke, I mean, even here in our own country, we mostly find jokes about, if you are walking in certain neighborhoods at certain times, you are likely to be robbed, right? And I mean, it's equally a serious issue, but when you compare that, so there are states in the country where, terrorists are based to the point where you are encouraged to avoid those areas. Rather than the national security, going up in arms to make sure that, they destroy or dismantle whatever structure that is before it takes over the nation. Because from there, neighboring countries, what happens to the rest of us? And, when you mentioned the Ebola thing, I wanted to make this as a saying that when your brother's beard is burning, you fetch water and, so you need to make sure you have some preventative measures in place, or just to make sure that you are not affected. But even that, look, as African countries, how much of it can we do?
So I said with time, because like you rightly stated, they have to look out for the root causes, and now
they know the root causes.
You see, some of these things are passed on from generation to generation. Like you said, the boss has been captured. Do you know the number of people he was able to train and all of that? And so with time, we just have to. It should be a crackdown.
This was even the second in command. I don't know where the first in command is hiding.
So it's a whole.
And the training, who will now take his place? They will also increase their security or whatever they need to do to prevent being apprehended again.
But in all of this, I just like the collaborations between the foreign nations and then the African as well. But then again, people are also saying that are we not giving more influence to this people? That's one aspect people are also looking at.
These foreign nations are funding them. And so even with the Venezuela issue about the oil and all of that, there was a school of thought that said that the U.S. is, claiming the Venezuelan president had done so and so. And you see, because of the oil interest, they claim they were helping to, dismantle whatever. With all these conspiracy theories, sometimes you realize that there is a tiny bit of truth in some of these things. Because if it was not an oil-rich country, we all know U.S. would not have been interested in them as much, you see. Now, with procurement of arms and things like that, it's a lucrative business, apparently. And we hear of these people funding these things. And then you see that when we hear of these Islamist issues, they almost tend to massage it as though, let's just appease them rather than crack down on them like the way, with the romance scam issues. You see how, with such force, but with some of these terrorist issues, you see that it just becomes something softly done.
You see, but I am of the view that we will continue to remain under the influence of the Western world as Africans because, I mean, when we talk about true liberation, we are not yet independent until we come together as one Africans.
We are doing neo-colonialism at this time.
It's not working because as we speak, even so-called countries that says like we are independent, we are this and that, we still have some form of external influence.
Yeah.
I didn't want to mention Ghana, but let me mention Ghana because in terms of our economy, we need IMF to come and tell us what to do. But the fact is that we have the finest brains, we have the brains here to do, but it's just that I don't know how to put it. When it comes to enforcement, I don't know. We just we wait for external force to come and exert on.
So Peter, if I am lending you money, I'm the one calling all the shots.
Right.
I can tell you, maybe you want to buy a car, you want to buy maybe a V8. I tell you, this money I'm giving you, you cannot buy a V8 with it. Use it to buy the smaller ones.
Right.
Do Uber. You see? And it's only because I have the power to do that because I am lending this money to you. And if, let's say, the money I lend to you, if I give you a convenient amount of time to pay, it helps you. And if you don't obey me, I can cut that time in half.
So, but why should it get to the extent that I will give you money to buy a car or something when you have what it takes to buy that car yourself and that you're not taking good care of it? We have all the natural resources. We have, the goodies here in Ghana. What prevents us from refining those things to ensure that we take care of ourselves and we continually, rely on the Western world? We talk about Ghana at 69, are we economically independent? We had the finest brain talking about what we've left behind, what we can actually do to ensure that we are self-reliant. We're not doing all that. And so if you mismanage your resources, your properties and all that, that is where it will end you. And those out there are always, waiting for us. They are just ever ready. So that you go to them, I need this help. Or they give you help and they tell you what to do. Look at recently what the deal that the president cancelled, the deal with the US.
The health.
These are some of the things. Why do you think that they'll have that, that power to say, let's kind of give this deal to them in return to get their, sensitive information and all that? Because they know that maybe if you think that you are free for like 4 years, maybe after 6 years they'll run back to us. Think, asking for something, and in return we can do that. And so it's time that
in Peter, like in all of this, I believe that the world is a global village, okay? And like somebody would say, we don't live in an island or anything. Definitely, you need hands. You need more hands, okay? And there's a saying that certain knowledge are for certain group of people. So I don't think it's bad if we sometimes seek help or we look for help. Let's say there's a contractor or someone like being given the rules to do. Let's say our people are not able to. They have people who have the knowledge and then they have their minds. They have their minds. Okay, they have their minds, but it's not all. Like you said, imagine giving your security information to they'll control you, Papa. They'll say you sleep.
And I think there was this time, some months back, almost a year. I think Nanaya was here. He made mention of something that is similar to the fact that Africa as a nation did not get to industrialize. You remember that when we look into history, you see how, yes, they come for our raw materials and they process them and then, return the finished goods to us. But we are stuck with the raw materials and we suffer post-harvest losses because we almost have nothing we can do with our raw materials. Look at the egg glut at the moment. Exactly. Some other countries would have found ways to manage the surplus of eggs. Yes, and turning it into powder is one option, but there are so many other things we could consider. And even if we do consider them, you realize that we may not have the capacity or machinery or even knowledge as to what exactly to do, because we are yet to industrialize and start doing our own productions here. All we keep doing is producing the raw materials, and that's what keeps us, under their thumb.
So the fact we could have done that because our
so why
forefathers,
haven't we done it?
So it's out of negligence and out of let's say selfishness and greed, because our fathers, the first president, Kwame Nkrumah, and his people, they started with, factories and all that. They started building a whole lot of factories around. As we speak right now, there are a whole lot of factories in Ghana that are not working. Why? Because those times when the factories were built, they were not getting the resources to actually, But with time, something could have been done. And still, like we said, in as much as we are lagging behind in terms of, industrialization, we still have the capacity. There's something that we can do. Look at recently when Ivory Coast said that, is it Burkina Faso said that, we are not going to allow you, we are not going to supply with tomatoes. Look at what happened. And then we started talking about the fact that we have the tomato factories and that we should grow our own tomatoes and try to process and even export. Do you hear of the conversation again? Do you hear of it? That is the country we are living in. An issue pop up, we talk about it just 1 month or let's say 3 weeks. We stop talking about it until that same issue pops up again. As we speak, do you have any tomato factory running here? What are the measures put in place? We heard that the government spoke to, they had that kind of relation, and then, and that is all. What are we doing to ensure that we don't go back to that? So our solutions are reactive. We wait for the thing to happen, and then we just react to it, and that's all.
And the industrialization is not going to happen in a day. Exactly. It will take some time. It will require certain sacrifices and a lot of patience from us as Ghanaians. But we are at that point where we need it quick because of the state of the nation, let me see. But then, not to dwell too much on this, let's move on to the next issue. I think we should merge these two things. It's all about the rain. So on one side, we have the flooding issue. On the other side is the transport issue where the vehicles that are supposed to transport us safely to our destinations, some of them have structural faults where instead of sitting in these vehicles to be protected from the rain will find you in these vehicles. So I think we have a few videos. Let's take a look and then we come back to discuss and probably also speak with Mr. Richard Amoyati from NADMO about, the floods and how we are handling them this time.
Obia so ne pan. Why is saying you? We do fear once I'm a pet our papa no me galed. Mammy, where you any sick and Mammy, where any me for 5 scan my. You're enough for adding. Come on, sorry. Come on. Come on. Koko tribunal na se so mu na da baby da na unya kan. Baby da. Hey, Chairman, I come with the mama of Famusa Mienu ni dinner. It's too bad. Why? Just ram okay. Hey. Man, the cry. Hey. Papa Faka ready by Fenipa. Nadia Kamunkwa and cry. One got a driver, Mr. Mibusasam, Diasema, Canada, Wodiana, Una, Mr. Diasem. Kabibi, Udia Kabibi Kakra. Well, the blouse, so we are one for my. What did Timoto so cry? No one of us was saying, yeah, I think oh.
Right, so those were some excerpts of what is happening in Accra here. And, to an extent it is amusing and it's also a very serious issue. Because for me, I think that I get annoyed when I'm in a public transport vehicle and the rain is dripping on me. Because these same people are always fighting for increments in transport fares and rarely ever do any maintenance to their vehicles. Because how is it that the roof of the vehicle is leaking? And when it rains, there's also congestion. Then there's heat. And then now Oh, it's dripping on you. The kind of frustration.
Yeah, it's sad.
We will buy
It's sad. At this point, I don't know what to say, but you should be in the church and it's raining. It's that bad. Even yesterday, I had a church experience. After work, due to where I was light, I had to sit like right when you enter the church, the very first seat. I wasn't sitting. I was clinging to something so I couldn't fall, just because the door was not locked properly.
So you see, what you can.
I was literally hanging. Okay, that was my situation yesterday alone.
Sorry about that.
I intentionally said I'll come and say this on air, so that if you are watching me and you want to even sponsor me with a car, please, I'm open to it because it's serious.
So
it's
you
serious.
had no option than to
hang. Let me put it that way.
Fine
I had
girl,
to hang.
hanging.
It's very worrying. I'm even shy.
Because some of us don't have the comfort to even order right and all of that. Salary require sign.
No, but you see, we are seemingly focused on alternatives. What about solving the main issue? Because some of these cars, a dress you have not finished wearing, you bought it not too long ago, then these exposed metals and nails will just tear the dress.
Sad. If you're not beaten by rain, is it that you are exposed to some metal that will pinch your ass? Or you are being harassed by somebody's armpits.
So when it comes to trotro, the issue of trotro, I think each and everyone has a story, and this has been very persistent, and looks as though people who are responsible for that are not giving a listening ear. You hear people on social media, on various TV stations, on various radio stations complaining about the state of our cars. But the people responsible are not taking the action. And so the responsibility is shared among several, state institutions in Ghana. But the main agency directly responsible for ensuring that only safe and roadworthy vehicles, including trotro vehicles, operate on our roads is the Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority. And now its mandate under DVLA Act 1999, Act 569, is to ensure the use of roadworthy vehicles and promote good driving standards. So my question again, are they working or they are sleeping? These people, before you can start working, you have to go for roadworthy certificate or something.
Right.
Do they inspect their cars?
No.
Or they just go there in person to ask without going with the cars? What is actually happening? How does the DVLA work?
Peter, some of the cars are like 40 years old. And I don't know when was the last time the situation of the car was checked on the road. You see some of the cars that are, I don't know, literally upside down on the road.
So, like I stated, that is a shared responsibility among national institutions. Apart from the DVLA, we also have the National Road Safety Authority. Under its Act 2019, Act 993, it is responsible for setting and enforcing road safety standards and regulating commercial transport operations. What are they also doing? We also see the MTTD on the road, always those with the reflectors and white.
Right.
What actually are they inspecting? What process must one go through before obtaining this roadworthy something? Is it that they go there without their cars, or what is the process like?
Do they go and pay for
it? Do they go and pay? I mean, it's a whole lot. So I was able to put something small together, if you will permit me.
Yes,
so who is responsible for what? So let's take the DVLA. The DVLA is responsible for vehicle registration, roadworthiness inspection, and issuing roadworthy certificates. So we also have licensing drivers and ensuring vehicles meet safety standards. So my question this morning is, what has DVLA been doing? I think they should educate us, because some of the cars that they are dead traps. I've not shared my experience because I don't know where to start from. And I know many people watching us this time, if we open their phone lines and they are to share their experience, so bad. We have all these institutions, they have offices, they are working. We are not seeing, what actually they are doing. The mandate given to them and what is happening in the system are two different things. You have this mandate to ensure that, we have good cars on our roads, but we have bad cars on our roads. Is it that they go there, like you said, pay money and get those, licenses without their cars being inspected, or what is actually going on? I don't want to, make speculations. I don't want to say things that are not in there. But we need the DVLA and then the other, institutions to come and answer questions. We also have the National Road Safety. They are responsible for national road safety regulation, setting transport safety standards, monitoring commercial transport operations, public road safety education, and coordinating road safety enforcement. And this one, they have been the power given to them is under LI 2468 Act 993. We see them. But what exactly are they doing?
What are they doing? And I think this same question, I was also pondering upon it with regards to the police. Yeah. We find these barriers every now and then at certain points, checkpoints. Yeah. And now I'm wondering, what exactly do they check? Yes, they check for seat belts. Yeah. Sometimes if it's a DV vehicle, they check for the logbook and all of that. Yeah. But is that all they check for? Because I don't think a policeman should see, some of these seats. The foam is finished. It's leather and wood or metal we are sitting on. I don't think a policeman should, shine his torch through the car and then see that, and then you allow the car. They should at least stop and say, gentlemen, why is your car in this state? What is the way forward?
Yeah, I think the problem too is from us, the people who bought this kind of deplorable state of vehicles. Because you go to the stations and clearly you can see that this seat is not fit for you to sit on it. But due to like the desperation, or they want to get to where they are going, they are left with no option than to just sit in this, bad vehicles. Like Peter said, it's a debt trap. Honestly, you sit in some of these cars, if not for God, If
sometimes
not God,
it's
serious.
Continuously for a while, you start to realize you have back pain. And
it's
look at how
serious.
young we are and dealing with back pain.
Honestly.
And, on another hand, too, I'm also thinking about how maybe GPRTU, in collaboration with some of these agencies or institutions, can come together to do some of these inspections. And, I think when I think about one side, I think about the other.
Yeah.
So now, imagine on a Saturday, all transport vehicles everywhere in Ghana are at their various stations being, inspected and monitored. Now, the consumers who need to board these cars, what happens to us? So then it begs that question, that how are we going to do a proper monitoring and then, evaluate the cars properly to let some of these drivers know that, Peter, this is your church, it's okay. Yes. You've had this church for 20 years. Please, go to the foam guy, let them put new seats for you or something. And even that, how long is it going to take? The welders, all of that. Exactly. Because some of these cars, they need to be impounded. No, they shouldn't be on the road anymore.
So, you see, like you stated, that's why some time ago when we were having a conversation on transport issues, I said that this is a system failure. And we need a complete overhaul of everything. And that is why most people are calling for the buses. I mean, if you have
I think I saw someone ask that, where are the buses that are supposed to come in check these issues for us?
So when we have alternative, that is when we can, fully enforce the law. And I think as much as I'm calling for these, institutions to enforce the law, it also begs the question, like you rightly said. Imagine on your way to work as early as, let's say, 7:30, you are running late. And an MTT
7:30 credit is supposed to be at work.
Yes. And a police officer stops your vehicle and tells you that the car is not in a good state, so he or she is not allowing the car to move. You have to get down and go on. It will turn a different fight. The passengers themselves will fight the police officer for doing that, without thinking about their safety at that time, but rather we're thinking about the rate.
We didn't send you, police, leave the car alone, let us go.
And do you know the most sad thing? The thing is that not all drivers or not all buses are under GPRT. So I won't fully blame them, because when you go to the stations, honestly, they are most of their cars are, I would say, they are equal to good conditions. But what happens to the ones that are not even part of the unions at all? You see, there are some of them that they just operate along the road.
And that is why
we start from there.
Yes.
Get everybody in a database. I mean, with the MPA and some of the vehicles that transport the petrol and all the other kinds of fuel, they have trackers for these cars. Why don't we install trackers for these buses and things? We are talking about technology all the time. There can be a database created where these people are regulated one way or the other, because it transcends transport fares. Transport fares is a whole new issue on its own. And then now the maintenance of these cars, because these are lives at stake. Sometimes you see this car and it is not fully aligned. And tomorrow there's an accident. It is not because of drinking and driving, it's not because of tiredness, but it's because of the state of the car. And lives are lost.
And I would like to also say that irrespective of whether it's you belong to GPRT or whatever, Proto or whatever, we have state institutions. Whether you belong to institution A or B, we have state institutions responsible for ensuring that we have good cars on our roads. And that is DVLA, we have the NRC, and then we have the MTTD as well. And so irrespective of which organization you belong to, you ply our roads, you use your roads. And once you get on the road, we have, state institutions that are responsible for ensuring that your car is in a good state. And so in as much as we are talking about some of the gaps and the hindrances at some of the things that are preventing these state institutions to enforce the law, we still want to see them enforcing the law. Once we enforce the law and the good people of Ghana start to complain, the other alternatives is government providing more vehicles into the system. Once there are more vehicles, we can start with this enforcement. If your car is not in a good state, we park it. Then we use other cars.
But when we park it too, employment is now an issue. Because
so maintain your car and work.
But here is the case, Peter. Like I said, your car that we're using, for example, is 20 years. This car, it is close to the impounding rather than any kind of repairs. You see, there are certain things that were to the point where it's not repaired that will fix it. They just need to dump it. In this situation where we tell Peter that, okay, Dad, this is your car right now, it is a health hazard, it's life threatening. What alternative do we have for Peter?
So I mean, with that, this has been the situation in Ghana. I mean, you do the wrong thing. Once the law or the authorities try to correct you, you then come back to say, when you do this, where should I go? This same thing applies to market women.
Yeah, the demolitions and all of that.
We want to, and a whole lot. And we come back to say, you have to do this, knowing very well that what you're doing is not good.
So let me say this. Knowing very well that your car is not well.
Yeah.
Honestly, somewhere around Teshi Blow. I think the vehicle was from Teshi Blow, the rain issue.
Yeah.
I saw a taxi, okay. The taxi is bad. And I think people have come to the realization that the taxi was bad. Yeah. Honestly, people don't even board it at all, especially maybe when you are desperate, okay, to get to where that's when you pick it. The next week, I saw this same car designed or painted in a different way. But a decorated monkey is still a monkey. I was like, what minds do they have?
Painting should have rather gone into
making sure. You see, you get the thing.
This question I'm asking, it is not to sort of justify their behavior. It is in preparation for the behavior. So when we decide we are going to do a morning show, we need to ask, okay, how many people are going to be inconvenienced by this morning show, and what are they likely to say? Now, when they say ABC, what are we also putting in place to make sure that we can sort of solve that issue? You get the perspective I'm coming from. So now, in a situation where this has been the car Peter has been driving for 20 years, he drove it from the time it was tear rubber, and now it's full of rust. And for whatever reason, he had not been able to buy more cars or whatever. And also maybe his own negligence is part where he didn't maintain this car properly enough. And these things, everything has a warranty. So no matter how much maintenance, it gets to a point where enough is enough for the car. The car is tired. So in this case, where we are telling Peter, or Master Peter and his 20-year-old Chocho that please park it. Peter is still working. He's still of sound mind and ability to work, and you tell him that we are no longer allowing your car on the road, he will also say, so it's more like if, let's say, these state institutions come into this case where they are saying that some of these cars need to be impounded, maybe certain temporary fixes, certain if it's even some of these buses or even these same small buses that they use, if the country or the state acquires some of these buses and tells them that, okay, we will give you this bus to drive, pay for it. Even I think the Uber and Bolt apps, they have those things. The ride-hailing apps have that arrangements with some of their drivers. You can work and pay for the car you are using. In the end of whatever period of time, the car is yours. So what if we also incorporate something like that, a system like that, to phase out some of these terrible cars? There are some cars called bone shaker. Do you know what it means for a bone to be shaken?
Like what you say is another aspect of it, and I respect that. But then let's face reality. This is a profit-driven venture. You buy the car and you venture into a profit-driven. And so for 20 years, my case, 20 years, that is where I make money from. I should be able to maintain my office. That is my office for 20 years. And I think that even
people have that mentality anyway.
So if you don't have that mentality, you'll be punished for your negligence.
Exactly. Because these are people's lives. You are using that car to pick people's lives.
It's not for free.
So this
charge.
So look at this also. The fact that these are human beings, Ghanaians to be specific, who will venture into something that at the end of the day you would even regret trying to, so in case we tell Peter, then Peter now says, okay, Mr. Mikoye Galamsi, I have nothing to do, Minika. Now it's a new problem we've brought Peter into that will also affect the nation as a whole. You see, that's where the problem is. That we try to solve the problem, but we don't look at some of the ripple effects it will have. That yes, Peter was negligent and all of that, but in the end, he will get up and say, Mikoye armed robbery or Mikoye shadow boy, and be terrorizing other church drivers who will now also intend try to increase the fares because they need to be paying him for shouting for loading his car. You see?
This issue, I think, before there will be this crackdown, there will be education. They will educate the people to let them know that this is it. But we spoke about the rain, like the state of the cars. Look at the brakes and all of that. So under the Road Traffic Regulation 2012 LI 2180, the law provides detailed technical standard for brakes, tires, lights, exhaust emissions, seat belt, windscreen, and what have you. And so.
Right, but let's put a pin in that. We have Mr. Richard Amoyate on the line. He is the Director of Inspectorate at NADMO, and this is, for us to have a conversation with regards to the flooding issues. Hello, sir.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. I hope you're well.
Very well, very well.
Right. So, yes, the rains have started again for some reason, and we heard that Sunday's rain was very devastating to a lot of communities here in Accra. What does NADMO have to say about that?
Let me say good morning to all your viewers, and also good morning to my Director General, Major Dr. J.B. Creole retired, and all NADMO staff across the country who are working around the clock to ensure flood preparedness and mitigation. There was some rains as usual. It was flash flooding. That means there was very low infiltration, and after a few hours, all the water levels have receded, and life is back to normal. NADMO, as a state agency responsible for managing disasters, is always prepared to manage every type of disaster that may occur in this country. So as for preparedness, we are always prepared to do our bit.
All right. So for this year, considering, I think last year in May, there was a flood and it was quite devastating. So this year, how prepared is NADMO for the rainy season, in terms of logistics and also response capacity?
Yeah, at the beginning of the year, once the Ghana Meteorological Agency alerted that heavy rainfall this year, we kickstarted our contingency plans and then started working around the clock. We first of all reviewed our operations for last year and identified areas that needed attention. And then we've engaged all the MMDs. It's responsibility for those areas. And then some dredging and clearing of drains and waterways took place. You also observed the recovery efforts at the wetland and then the river basins where unauthorized structures were removed to ensure unimpeded flow of water. So yes, we are prepared, we are doing our bit, and all other agencies who have mandates in that area are all working to ensure that floods are mitigated. But as for flash floods, they occur because sometimes, no matter what you do, you are overwhelmed by the levels of rainfall, the volumes of rainfall. And so we had the flash flood, and then things are back to normal. We will continue working on our drains, clearing them so that there will be unimpeded flow of flood waters to ensure that our communities are not inundated.
All right. So what are some of the early warning systems that you've put in place that, is there to alert, residents about that are in flood-prone areas, about, some of these disasters ahead of them?
Doing community engagement one-on-one, where NADMO staff are in the community, flood-prone communities, electing the people and then sensitizing them on what to do and what not to do to stay safe during this rainy season. We are also ensuring that all our safe havens are ready so that people can move to the safe havens for protection when their communities are flooded. We also have the hotline, the National Emergency Line, the 112 on stream for anybody who is distressed by the flood situation to call for attention. So all these things are being done to ensure that the impact will be minimal, shouldn't be flooding at all.
So with communities that have built in waterways, are there demolition exercises that are, likely to be underway soon?
Did you say communities?
Yeah, certain communities, some people have their homes built on waterways and all that. The sensitization process.
You cannot we have the resources to evacuate whole community. So what we are doing is that we are sensitizing them, we are showing them where the seasons are, we are showing them the do's and the don'ts, what they should do to ensure that they are safe, even in that environment.
Okay.
So yes, there are communities which are in low-lying areas and prone to flooding. But then, like I said, we are in the communities sensitizing them on the do's and don'ts.
Okay. So how do you coordinate with local authorities and also emergency services during flood incidents or emergencies?
NADMO is not alone.
Okay.
Like at the beginning of the year, we visited all the MMDAs, met with the chief executives, met with the planning and then engineers. So apart from that, we're also working with other agencies like Ghana Armed Forces, Ghana National Fire Service, Ghana Police Service, National Ambulance, and the Ghana Health Services, who all be needed when there's a need for a flood response to be launched. So we are working and coordinating all these agencies and other agencies that have responsibility in flood control and the Ghana Hydrological Authority. Yeah.
All right. So what are some of the key challenges that you face, when it comes to the flood prevention and rapid response, across the country?
I advise that citizens should listen to flag or weather information on their televisions, radios, and those who can read and write and alert. These days, almost all smartphones will alert you of the weather conditions. People must pay attention to these things. So it is in their own interest that they pay attention to what the information. That is our challenge. People don't listen, and the people don't take advice on the do's and don'ts. Once everybody takes up the advice, everybody knows the emergency hotline, everybody knows the nearest place they need to go. The impact of floods will be mitigated.
All right. Thank you so much. So my colleague here has a few questions for you as well. Peter.
Right, so thank you very much for the insights. But my question this morning is, in previous years, concerns were raised about delayed response, inadequate logistics, and limited resources. Yes, so please, can you hear? Is it okay now? Okay, so I was asking that in previous years, concerns were raised about delayed response, inadequate logistics, and limited resources. Does NADMO presently have enough rescue equipment, personnel, and funding to respond effectively if severe flooding occurs simultaneously across multiple regions?
All the equipment, you have all the funding, you have all the logistics. Nobody has it all. But whatever resources are available to us, we manage them as effectively and efficiently as possible to deal with the situation as and when they come up. Nobody, absolutely nobody has it all. But they will make do with the logistics available to us to ensure effective and efficient response. But then, like Oliver Twist, we will always need more.
Right. Thank you so for the insights. Yes, that was Mr. Richard Amoyate, the Director Inspectorate at NADMO, telling us about, what NADMO has been doing and is doing with regards to some of the early warning signs of the flooding issues as well. So please let us also do well to take note when NADMO comes around to educate us. It is for our own well-being and safety as well. So let's adhere to the rules and make, rescue efforts seamless and also preventative measures also very seamless. Thank you so much, Mr. Richard Amoyate. We hope you have a good day ahead. So coming into, I think, our last issue, which is that security. Yes, it's a security issue where the police have intercepted ammunition at Nkwanta, and security forces in Nkwanta have recovered ammunition in two separate intelligence-led operations within the O2 region. Now, the incident happened on Sunday, May 17, 2026, and according to a police statement, the first operation involved a night patrol team that stopped a 66-seater MGI bus with registration number AS248P, which was transporting passengers at a security checkpoint in Nkwanta. And yes, we have a press release from the Ghana Police Service, but because of time, I may not be able to go into reading it. And so now, when you go into the story, you find it was about, I think, 250 AA cartridges and another 250 BB cartridges for the guns, and it is worrying.
I mean, so you're right. The interception itself is a good news, but it shows that the security agencies are working. But national security is not measured only by interceptions.
Yeah.
It is measured by how difficult it is for illegal arms to move within a country in the first place. I think we've had conversations around this same issue, even with respect to narcotics and all that. And it seems that the situation still persists, and that currently we need, what it takes to actually combat this crime. But then the real issue is not just like I said, the ammunition found, but the real issue is, where did it originate? One.
And where is it going?
Exactly. How did it enter circulation? These are some of the questions we should ask ourselves. And, mostly those people that are found with those, ammunitions are not the real perpetrators of that. Sometimes, it's a chain. Yes. From those who made the payment to the suppliers, to those, transporting it, and to which destination. But then what makes it so, serious and intense is the fact that the place that these ammunitions were intercepted, that is somewhere in Koko or in Kwanta. Yes, there's been some situation over there, some misunderstanding and all that, and so it makes the whole thing very serious. Is it that these ammunitions are meant for misunderstandings? Maybe there's likelihood of some conflict and whatever.
Like you said earlier, is a security prone zone area now, and looking at the acquisition of this makes it even worse. So is it for people, because we recorded that there has been some chieftaincy disputes and all of that. Doesn't mean that these ammunitions are for the people. That's possible. One question that I keep asking myself. Then what happens to we saying, oh, Ghana is a peaceful country, and then later we are seeing guns and things.
We are a peaceful country on a larger scale, but when you break it down into the smaller components, there's a lot of conflict going on. It's just not big enough to, and these are clear bits of evidence.
And so I think that going forward there should be a whole lot. We should do a whole lot to ensure that this become a thing of the past. And then the Interior Ministry over the years, I think late last year, there were a whole lot of measures put in place that firearms needs to be registered, and that even during festivals firearms should not be used, and there are some trackers to track firearms. Before you possess even a firearm, there should be a reason you should register it, and once you register it, the institution will be able to trace it to ensure that these firearms do not land in the hands of the wrong people. So I think that there are gaps, like we rightly admitted, and so our security checkpoints alone are not sufficient, and then modern security also relies on intelligent mapping and data-driven surveillance matters. And I've been saying this, I think we have to make good use of technology. We have to take advantage of technology, and this needs a whole form of, I don't know how to put it, but we need to come together and ensure that most of our activities are also based on technology. Some of the things that we can use technology to assess, we should, as early as possible, do it. We have the brighter minds. We have the people. We should make good use of some of these things to ensure that some of these things that poses security risks in our country do not, happen or take us by surprise.
And we can't talk about this without mentioning border control or border security, because with this situation, this quantity of ammunition was also in a vehicle with passengers in there. So now, was this an attempt at smuggling it from one place to the other? We talk about borders, but we've forgotten that the Volta region, it spans not even the Volta region per se, but what we hear is a flower border, right? So from a flower, you go into Togo and all of that. But ahead, there are still townships along, what the partitioning of Africa, what they drew as Ghana. There are towns along all those places where when you enter this place, maybe 5 kilometers from here, this is Ghana, this is Togo, this is Cote d'Ivoire, this is Burkina Faso. What security measures are being taken in all those towns to prevent these kinds of things? Because for all we know, there are so many towns out there that we the ordinary citizens don't even know. These are border townships, or these are border villages that are used often for transporting all kinds of illicit material into the country. So aside focusing on the main one of our border, we need
other
checkpoints all over the country, so we know that people are not going to get away with that. Because this same issue, we can link it to the smuggle of cocoa beans to, was it Cote d'Ivoire or Burkina Faso? Again, another border issue, because how are you able to just leave the country with cocoa beans and nobody is probably even there to question you? They just see it as a vehicle going out into another town.
You see, when we talk about this, it boils down to immigration. We have people who are employed and paid to be at those places. And then when you are privileged to have conversations with them, they take you to a different aspect of it. It all boils down to power, security. I mean, you can see, but who are you to act? Because they tell you it's from above. When you try, either they transfer you or another consequence. And so that's why I said we have to make good use of technology. If we have this AI something and that we have we have a whole system ensuring we are seeing as much as we have people present there to ensure that they do the needful. We also have some surveillance, something that is also capturing the area. So if the person there, the human being there, refuse to act, there should be some form of alert or whatever. But and as we talk about security, it does not, border on security alone. There's also an economic problem as well, because investors usually avoid unstable areas.
Yeah.
Businesses relocate.
Right.
Insurance costs, rise. Local economies weakened, and development stalls as well. And so it's a whole lot that we need to.
But as much as this is one aspect of it,
Yeah.
it is also a lucrative business for certain investors too, where they get to bypass whatever regulations and fees and taxes or levies they're supposed to pay. So it's like it works here, it doesn't work here, and in the end, like I say, sometimes it's because of power and the rest. As a nation, our leaders need to also try to be upright, and I think that. Well, we are seeing something like that now, where we hear our president talking about, he's not going to be giving some of the leaders certain liberties they used to have and all of that. It's a step in the right direction, but I think there's more room for improvement.
Because we are losing a whole lot. I don't really remember the exact figure, but then some weeks back, it was announced that the amount Ghana lose alone from the borders, people trying to smuggle, it's too much, and that is affecting our economy. And I think with some practical solutions, I think they should establish regional intelligence, which with fusion centers. Now, and I think that is what they are doing. The combined intelligence, shared database, and centralized threat analysis. And we should encourage community intelligence system. You understand? Right. And so, I know government is working. We have the people, the experts, they are working. But they can also work in isolation when we should be whistleblowers as well.
Right.
When you see something...
Snitches get stitched.
We shouldn't be... I'd like to, on this note, I'd like to, borrow the words of the former president. We shouldn't be... is it spectators? I don't really recall the statement, but we should also help.
We shouldn't be. We should be citizens. We should be spectators, not just citizens. Also,
we should be citizens and not spectators.
Just spectators. Yes.
So we should together help. These security agencies. When you see something, say something.
Yes, the national security actually. I think there was a campaign at a point where if you see something strange, they had a toll-free number or so for you to call. Yeah. Right. Well, let me take your key takeaways from this conversation, and then we move on into the business segment as the online and print review segment has ended.
Right, so generally it has been a fruitful conversation, right from transport issue, the cars, straight to NADMO, and then to, security threat and what have you, and then the concern about Ghana, trying to lose its image. Overall, these are concerns that we should all be involved with and ensure that our acts do not lead to something that would damage the image of Ghana. Our acts shouldn't be a threat to, the citizens. And together, let us just work. When you see something, say something. If something is not going well, make sure you report to the right authorities. And we also, I'm also pleading that our authorities, they shouldn't come and just promise. They should actually walk the talk. Whatever they say they will do, they have to do it. There is something I would like to see, but next week I'll come with that. There was a promise that has not been fulfilled. And I would like to ask questions on that.
And also heard fuel prices have gone up. I don't know if you'd be taking us to business segment for that.
Yes, so today business segment is basically about IMF. But with respect to the fuel, when the tension, came up, government, did something by absorbing some amount of money on fuel and then on diesel. And then recently, that one ended on the 15th of May. Okay. And then government is still absorbing, I think, 1 cedi, 7 pesos on diesel prices and all that. But like you rightly said, it is still, it is still out there.
I don't think it's just Ghana, because this morning I was watching BBC News, and I think Kenya has also been affected in a way. Therefore, prices have gone up.
I'm sure by Thursday we'll get some more information on this. So I would say this brings us to the end of the online and print review segment. Up next is the business segment, where Peter and his guest will be discussing Ghana's exit from the IMF bailout and what it means for us as Ghanaians. So please do stay tuned.
Hello there, good morning to you, and many thanks for joining me on the business of this segment on the Koko Digest Morning Show. I'm your host, Peter Nsia. Today we are looking at something very imperative. Ghana is now in the news for what government describes as the successful completion of 8 IMF program. And so in simple terms, it means that the country has gone through the bailout period, and attention is now shifted to what comes next for the economy. But alongside this is also the discussion about what we call the PCI, the Public Coordination Instruments, and which is also linked to the IMF, but works differently, from a bailout. So this morning, the big question we are asking is, what does all this really mean for Ghana's economy, for businesses, and for the ordinary citizens who are dealing with, the cost of living every day? And so today, joining me for this very discussion is Professor Ntwi, who is an associate professor of economics and an HOD of the University of Akentin. That's Akentin Apia Menka University of Skills Training and Entrepreneurial Development. But before I engage my guest, there's a video on the video about the finance minister when he was breaking the news to Ghanaians that we are finally out of the IMF. Let's take a look at the video. When we come back, I'll introduce my guest.
Sovereign credit rating has also improved significantly from where we used to be to B positive, B with a positive outlook. And since then, we've seen almost 5 notches upgrade since our terrible times of restrictive default. This reflects improved fiscal performance, normalization of creditors' relationships, strong external buffers, and renewed market confidence. Our gross international reserves has also improved significantly to about $14.5 billion US dollars. These foreign exchange reserve buffers provide Ghana with the capacity to withstand external shocks and stand on its own feet. This announcement marks the definitive end of Ghana's financial bailout relationship with the IMF. The government of Ghana is exceedingly grateful to the people of Ghana for their sacrifices, resilience, and forbearance. The government of Ghana is also exceedingly grateful to our bilateral creditors, the Official Creditors Committee, and our external and domestic investors for their collective sacrifice. Going forward, the government of Ghana announces an engagement with the IMF on Policy Coordination Instrument, PCI. The PCI is a form of technical assistance engagement with the IMF. It is a non-financing instrument designed to help countries implement economic reforms and signal commitment to policies that the financial market will be very comfortable with, and unlock financing from private investors and other development partners. For the avoidance of doubt, the PCI does not provide financial bailout, but it will offer continuous capacity development, confidence boost to the market, and deliver a catalytic effect for fresh financing to Ghana. This non-bailout technical assistance policy coordination instrument will complement government effort to achieve investment grade in the near future. Achieving investment grade is very important and significant to the people of Ghana. It will lower sovereign and private sector borrowing costs and attract long-term institutional investors, increase foreign direct investment, and unlock cheaper financing for critical infrastructure development and private sector growth. Ultimately, this engagement will support government of Ghana's effort to accelerate sustainable development, create jobs, and raise living standards for all Ghanaians. President Mahama and his administration remain fully committed to good governance, prudent economic management, fiscal discipline, and creating an attractive environment for both domestic and international investment. Thank you very much.
And the video you just saw is the finance minister during that very program. Like I stated, to help me, dissect and, explain into details what this actually meant to the economy, businesses and the ordinary Ghanaian as Professor Joseph Entwi Befi, who is an associate professor and HOD for economics at Amstad. Good morning, sir, and many thanks for joining me on the business of this segment on the Koko Digest Morning Show. Right, it seems we've lost Professor Befi, but before we get into that, I have some, graphics to explain to you, the microeconomic indicators when we started the IMF program and where we've got into so far, 2023. Producer, can you kindly project the international reserves from 2023? Yeah, so this is the public debt to GDP as at 2023. The end of 2023, it stood at 68 to 79%. 68 to 79%. And so this improved to about 62% in 2024 and further down to 45% in 2025. And a slight adjustment to around 53% projected in 2026. And this shows improvement, but it still requires careful fiscal, management. Producer, take me to the next graphic. And yes, what you're seeing is inflation, annual average. And so this inflation measures the cost of living. And Ghana recorded about 38% in 2023. And this reduced to about 23% in 2024. And then in 2025, it came down further into the 12 to 14% range. And by 2026, we are seeing single-digit figures around 3 to 4%, that is 3.4. This actually, indicates that price pressures have eased significantly compared to previous years. Please, the next. And yes, what you're seeing currently is the gross international reserves. And this, by the end of 2023, so this basically, it's about foreign currency savings used to pay for, imports and support the city. So in 2023, reserves were about $5.9 billion, covering roughly 2 to 3 months of import. By 2024, this increased to around $9 billion. In 2025, it rose significantly to about $13.8 billion. And by early 2026, as you can see, it reached about $14.5 billion. This means Ghana now has a much stronger buffer to actually support the currency and meet external obligations. Let's take a look at inflation as well. Producer, the next. Yes, so with inflation, as you're looking for inflation, which measures the cost of living, Ghana recorded about 38% in 2023. I think I've gone through that. Yes. So basically, these are some of the microeconomic, indicators as we wait for. All right. So we have Professor Joseph Entwi Befi back on the line. Good morning, sir. Many thanks for joining me on the business of this segment of the Koko Digest Morning Show.
Please, can you work on your line?
Okay.
The volume is very, very faint.
Please, is it okay now?
Yes, it's much better.
All right, sir. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show. So I just want to take your initial reaction. Government says Ghana has successfully completed the IMF program. From your view as an economist, should this be seen as a genuine economic turning point or simply a temporary stabilization phase?
Good morning once again to your listeners. We have been here before. We have gone to the IMF. We've gone through a series of programs, and we have exited. So nothing is new, if you ask me. It has been the same old story. The amount of many times, 2 times, into
happy about, because it's something that has been repetitive for the years. There's no turning point in this IMF exit. Things are still the same. And excuse my language, it could even be worse, because history has taught us that we exit. And we go back to the IMF almost down zero. So it can even be worse for us with this exit, because fiscal discipline may help the fiscal that we actually practice over the period. So yes, IMF bailouts, all the euphoria and exits, but there's nothing to share about over again. And let me just quickly add that even though we have exited, we are not out of the woods yet. We are still going to have what is called IMF financial arrangements, sometimes called the policy coordination instrument, which means that for the next 3 years, again, we will still have to go and show our budget to them, our expenditures to them. There should be some form of policy coordination. The only difference is that this coordination and policy instrument is not binding, because they're not giving us anything. Previously, they were giving us money. So when they recommend any policy, government would have to follow up on that policy and make sure it's implemented. This time, it is not binding. And so it could be that government may adopt some of the policies and work with it. But government may not, because it is really not binding. These are my initial comments. I don't know whether they are follow-ups, but there are other things I also need to share.
All right. So then I would like to find out how important is this development for Ghana's credibility with investors and the international financial markets?
First of all, we need to admit that there has been some improvements in macro indicators when we went to IMF. For example, inflation has eased. The cedi is more stabilized. Foreign reserves have improved. Investor confidence is gradually returning. And the GDP growth rate for 2026 was projected to be about 4.8. So we have had some gains, some macroeconomic gains. But the question you ask, what next for the economy? We need some level of fiscal discipline. Fiscal discipline. That is our biggest test. So let's ask certain questions. Will the government maintain fiscal discipline spending? Will election-related over-expenditure return? And what about the borrowing? The massive borrowing that we had over the previous years. This is one thing we should avert our minds to. Exchange rate stability also matters. After their exit, what will happen to our exchange rates? Fuel price shocks. This war is bringing about gradual increase in fuel prices, and you know that fuel price has a rippling effect on almost everything. So with our exits and with the gradual increase in fuel prices, what impact is it going to have on inflation? And this is where businesses need to take these things into consideration when they are planning for the next quarter or even the next 6 months. Because our exit comes with certain responsibility, and the government is not able to hold on to those responsibilities, and our macro indicators get out of hand, businesses are going to suffer. So businesses should plan, having into consideration the changing effect of the exits on their businesses. Especially, businesses can experience high energy costs, as we are seeing now. Credit may become expensive. If inflation gets out of hand and interest rates start increasing, credit may become expensive. If the exchange rate, we are not able to stabilize the exchange rate and it gets out of hand, foreign exchange pressures will also begin to build up. And of course, we may have high operating costs. So the picture may look a little bit gloomy if government does not maintain that discipline. But if government is able to maintain the discipline, then businesses will be encouraged to invest, to expand, to create more employment. The major risk with this exit is that there's likely to be an increase in public debt expenditure when governments start borrowing recklessly, as we saw previously. Election cycle spending, we have how many years into the next election? And you know that those spending doesn't occur in that very month. It occurs maybe about 1 year, 6 months, or 1 year into the next election. With our exits, we are likely to have this expenditure that may bring us back to where we used to be. And what about external shocks? What if gold prices begin to fall? Because the gold board is doing very good job. We are soaring up our gold reserves, and that is accounting for the exchange rate stability. So when gold prices begin to fall, what happens? These external shocks are very, very dangerous. What about oil price? If oil price continues to increase, what happens? If cocoa prices begin to fall, what happens? These external shocks alone can erode everything government has achieved in about 3 or 4 months. Very, very, very serious. So the likely economic direction over the next 3 years, if the IMF, if the fiscal discipline continues, either we may have inflation that is likely to maintain, a cedi that is likely to be more stable, interest rates that may reduce gradually over time, business confidence improving, and growth strength moderately. If we are able to fall within the bracket for the next 3 months, for the next 3 years, in their policy implementation coordination, then we can continue to enjoy these gains. But if fiscal discipline weakens, we will be in big trouble. And if fiscal discipline weakens in the next 3 years, we will be talking about going back to the IMF. Because if fiscal discipline weakens, inflation may rise again, cedi depreciation may resume, investor confidence may fall, and government risk returning to another IMF program. What beats my mind is that we sit in the same classroom with these people at the IMF. We learn the same economics they learn. Do we have to wait for them to come and advise us on how to run our own affairs? I think of it and I don't understand. These politicians have sat in the same classroom with most of them. They even had better grades than most of them. You return to your country, and they come back to tell you what you should do. But you know that you have to expand the tax bracket. You know that you have to be fiscally disciplined. You know that you cannot run the economy reckless. You cannot borrow anyhow and still survive. Right. You know these things. Right. But you still wait for somebody to fly over from his country to your country and tell you that do the things you know yourself. That is, I don't want to use any harsh words. Yeah. But we have a long way to go as a country.
Right.
And I wish that in the next 5 or 10 years, we will not be returning to the IMF for an IMF program.
Right, Prof. Your point is well established.
Have shown that countries that always go to IMF for help or for bailouts doesn't do so well. The conditionalities are not meant to help you. They are meant for you to pay back their money to them. Whatever happens afterwards, you don't really care.
Right. Thank you very much, Prof. And so amazed that the Ghana's arrangement with IMF on the PCI instrument is something, laudable. From your explanations, it means that the arrangement is something laudable, and that will prevent Ghana from going back to IMF. I don't know if that is right.
That is even for only 3 years. The policy coordination instrument is even for only 3 years. After, assuming that government becomes disciplined and follows the policy coordination instrument by the IMF for the next 3 years, assuming. What happens after that 3 years? 2026, after 2029. If the government does not continue, if the fiscal discipline is lost after the next 3 years, then we'll be going back to the IMF. So even though it is good, but my point is that we still wait for them to tell us what to do, because we already know what to do. Right. We know it.
All right, Prof. So
we know it. Don't we know that we're supposed to increase our tax net and expand government revenue? Don't you know that? Don't you know that we're supposed to cut down on useless government expenditure? Don't we know that?
Right.
We know it. Don't we know that we are supposed to invest in sectors that ensure continuous growth and development? Don't we know?
Right.
We know these things. We know. But as I said, the problem is the politician becoming more disciplined and doing what is right for the nation. For the solutions to our economy, we know. We know what to do to make the economy work. Just that we are just not willing to follow up. That's the point.
Right. Your point is well established. Let's now look at from the perspective of the ordinary Ghanaian who is still struggling.
Your line is very faint.
Right. So I was saying that let's look at it from the perspective of the ordinary Ghanaian who is still struggling with high cost of transport and food and the other remaining commodities. How are these sustained gains going to translate into the life of the ordinary Ghanaian? How soon are we going to see it, or it is also going to take a very long time?
You see, for the ordinary Ghanaian, they are not looking at IMF review. What they are looking at is food prices, transport fares, rent, school fees, utility bill, fuel prices, job opportunities, interest rates. These are the things that matters for the ordinary Ghanaian. So, if government continues to be disciplined and inflation is at 3% or becomes 3% for the next 2 or 3 years, then the ordinary Ghanaian would have confidence that, okay, prices are not increasing, cost of living is low, I can meet 3 square meals a day, and that is what the ordinary Ghanaian is looking at. If the city is stable, fuel prices are stable, food prices are stable, spare parts prices are stable, medicine prices are stable, rent is very, very stable and moderate, the ordinary Ghanaian will be comfortable. But to achieve these things, you need continuous discipline for a longer period. If I become disciplined for 1 year and in the following year I become indisciplined in my spending, whatever gains I might have had will be eroded. So I'll be back to square one. But if government becomes disciplined from now to 2030 or from now to 2035, and we maintain that sort of discipline that we have had in the past 3 years, these prices of goods and services becoming stable is what will benefit the ordinary consumer, the ordinary Ghanaian. If government becomes disciplined and interest rate still remains low, cost of borrowing is low, operating the business cost is low, electricity prices are low, that is what benefits an ordinary Ghanaian. But my point is that these gains we are getting does not take 1 year. It takes time. Macroeconomic issues take time. The policy takes time for it to have an impact on the ordinary Ghanaian. If you start a policy now, the Ghanaian may have the impact after 2, 3, 4, or 5 years. And in some cases, after 20 years. So we need to keep this level of discipline. Government needs to invest in productive ventures. Look at what happened to the nurses. 52,000 people apply. They are employing only 6,000. That's 53,000 less. The difference, where are they supposed to go and work? But if government is investing in our healthcare, building healthcare infrastructure, employing people, people become healthier, people will be productive, and that will ensure growth and development. So for the ordinary Ghanaian, these things that comes up all the time in terms of IMF review, conditionalities, bailouts, whatever, doesn't really matter to him. What matters is that the results that comes out of the fiscal discipline is what matters to the ordinary Ghanaian. And the Ghanaian will be very happy if government keeps on this level of discipline. Government continues to keep this level of fiscal discipline and implementation of the policy coordination so that we enjoy the gains and we all become happy. That is what we are all looking at.
Right, Prof. I have a whole lot of questions, but because of time, we have to end here. And so your last words to viewers before you let go of us.
Okay. So this exit, some people may interpret it as a positive public perception that government probably is doing something. There's an evidence of recovery. There's an evidence of restoration of the national confidence. And there's an evidence that at least things are taking on the right turn. But there is always skepticism because, as I mentioned in my initial comment, we have been there before. We've gone to the IMF, exit, and gone back to the IMF again, number of times. So it is really not the problem exiting. There's nothing so much joyful about we exiting. What we need to do is that we have to keep on maintaining stable prices, stable currency, reliable energy, better jobs, affordable transport, predictable economic conditions, income growth getting faster than inflation. For us to be able to achieve these things, all the responsibility lies on the fact that we're able to live within our means, increase government revenue, invest in the real sector, profitable real sector, not in goods and services, so that the investment will bring up the results after 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 years. So we have exited, but we may not be out of the woods completely. We have a lot of work to do to ensure that we don't go back to the IMF.
Right. Thank you very much, sir, for your input on this very topic. Thank you for joining us this morning. We really appreciate it. And that is Professor Joseph Ntwibefi, who is an associate professor of Amsterdam, who is also a professor of economics and the HOD, also as well an HOD, who shared his insight on this very topic. He spoke about, if we don't take external shocks like oil prices, cocoa, and other things can also, spoil everything. And that he stated with his last, comments that this is not new. We've been there before. And so we just have to continue with the fiscal discipline. And before the ordinary Ghanaian can, actually benefit from this sustained gains, it will somehow take, some time. And then he also said that the ordinary Ghanaian is not interested in the IMF review and whatever it is. What the ordinary Ghanaian is interested in is the cost of food, transport, and what have you. This has been the business segment with me, Peter and Sia. Thank you for sticking and staying with us. Up next is the main discussion with Yaira Awono. Please, you stay with us. Hello, lovely viewers. Good morning and welcome to the sports update segment on your favorite morning show, the Koko Digest Morning Show. You know, here we bring you nothing but the best in the world of sports. We are covering all the action, both local and international. Today, I'm your host. My name is Benedict Nketia Kwarteng. Thank you very much, the landlord of Ghana Football, the landlord of Ministries, for holding the fort for me whilst I was away preparing for the World Cup and all that. So yes, thank you very much, viewers, for also sticking and staying with us. We thank you for your comments. We thank you for your contributions throughout the week and all that. You know, tomorrow my colleagues on the doing the clock sports will go deeper into the stories that we have for you. But I can't leave today hanging without talking about what is happening in our club football. So our club football is almost over. It is coming to an end. For some of the leagues, for the countries in Europe, the club football is over. Talk about Germany, it's over. Talk about France is not over yet. They have a game at hand. That is Paris. Yeah, Paris has won. Paris Saint-Germain has already won the league. PSG, they've won the league over their arch rivals, Paris FC, over the weekend. They played, which PSG won, and then now they've been crowned winners of the Ligue 1. The German Bundesliga. Bayern Munich has also taken the league. It's a done deal for Bayern Munich. We come to one of the exciting leagues that we're going to talk about today. That is the Spanish League, where Barcelona have done it again, back to back. I was supposed to be around last season to prepare the Real Madrid fans, but then you were lucky I wasn't around. So today, I'll still put it to you. So yes, Barcelona has done it back to back. Once again, they've won the league, and Real Madrid is going trophyless once more. Yes, it is happening. But let's move on. Let's look at one of the interesting things going on in the Spanish La Liga. And that is a relegation battle, where we have about 5 teams, battling out for the relegation spot. The relegation is not something to be excited about or something to boast about. But when it comes to the Spanish League, it's actually competition, because teams are trying to elude to get out of the relegation spot in the Spanish La Liga. So we have Real Oviedo, which is they are already gone. They've already been relegated with 29 points. You have Mallorca with 39 points with a difference of minus 13 goals. We have Girona, 40 points, a difference of minus 16 goals. We have Elche. So 19th position is Mallorca, 18th is Girona, 17th is Elche with 42 points, minus 8 goals. We have Osasuna, 42 points, that is 16th position, 42 points with minus 5 goals. And we have Levante with 42 points, minus 13 goals. So in the last round of games that is going to go on, any of these teams, Real Oviedo is already gone. We have Mallorca also almost gone. And we have Girona. In the relegation battle, 3 teams must go. Oviedo is gone, leaving a spot for 2 more teams, where we have Girona and Mallorca in that spot. But anything can happen in this last games that is going to happen in the coming days, in the next weekend and all that. So hopefully we'll see who goes to relegation, who stays in the league, and who goes on to qualify for Europe and all that. So we have Barcelona, Real Madrid, Villarreal, Atletico Madrid, and Real Betis qualifying for the Champions League next season. And we have Celta Vigo being promoted to the Europa League. And then we have Getafe also going towards the Conference League. Real Sociedad, according to that data we have here, Real Sociedad is almost entering into the Europa League. It's quite confusing why they're almost entering into the Europa League. But I think because they have a game at hand and you have less minus goals, so anything can happen. But let's move on to an interesting part of world football, where we talk about the EPL, the English Premier League. We have Arsenal being the favourites to win the EPL after 20 years, more than 20 years. Ever since they won the league, ever since they won Champions League. I'm already moving to the Champions League part of Arsenal. But yes, let's talk about the EPL. So Arsenal is on top with 82 points. They have a game at hand. City has 2 games at hand. So we are playing 38 games in total. City has played 36. Arsenal has played 37. And the difference between the 2 teams is just 5 points. So City playing their game today against Bournemouth.
whatever that happens today, if City draws or loses against Bournemouth, it's a done deal for Arsenal. Arsenal goes ahead to win the English Premier League after a long spell in the competition. So yes, today everybody is looking out for Manchester City, whether they're going to perform wonders or they're going to trail in the EPL competition. And it also comes along with announcement of Guardiola moving on from City, moving on somewhere else, another team which hasn't been announced yet. We have Enzo Maresca, the Chelsea the coach, who couldn't do very well with Chelsea. So it shows that it's not actually a coach problem, it's the team's fault. But then yes, Enzo Maresca is moving to Manchester City after Pep Guardiola moves. And then the relegation battle, we have West Ham, Burnley and Wolves. Burnley is already gone, Wolves is already gone. We have West Ham competing with Tottenham for Tottenham Hotspurs, in the last spot for the relegation battle. Tottenham has 38 points, West Ham has 36 points. In the last, Tottenham has 2 games at hand. We have West Ham just having a game at hand. So it's almost likely Tottenham will go through and then West Ham will be relegated, joining Burnley and then Wolves in the competition, in the relegation spot of the competition. So we have Arsenal, we have City, we have Manchester United, Aston Villa and Liverpool qualifying for the Champions League next season. We have Bournemouth, Brighton for the Europa League. And we have Brentford playing the Conference League. But one interesting fact in the English Premier League that we have to just look at is Chelsea. Even though they are the 10th position, Chelsea is at the 10th position on the table, but they can still qualify for Champions League football next season if a lot of permutations, a lot of calculations has gone through. So Chelsea can still qualify for Champions League football if Aston Villa wins the Europa League and loses against Manchester City, which is a possibility. Also, if Liverpool beats Brentford, a possibility for Chelsea to qualify. Brighton draws or loses against Manchester United, another possibility for Chelsea. Bournemouth loses against Manchester City and Nottingham Forest, another possibility for Chelsea. And then Chelsea goes ahead to beat Spurs and Sunderland to finish 6th position. Chelsea can still qualify for international football. So it's still a possibility for Chelsea, and then they are hoping that something will come out from the next games that is going to be played. That is the last set of games for most of the teams in the English Premier League. Now let's move on to our stories for today. So our stories for today, we have our first local story, which is the women's football in Ghana. Hazakes ladies being crowned Women's FA Cup champions after defeating Army ladies on penalties. So yes, the FA competition between which saw the finals between Hazakes lady and then Army ladies, which the game was actually an interesting one. Throughout the game, it was a goalless game until the final minutes, around the 83rd minute, where Hazakes ladies were able to take the 87th minute. Hazakes ladies were able to take the lead. A goal scored by Linda Epo, who she finished very calmly to put her side ahead. But 2 minutes after the goal was scored, Esther Samoyadom, who is a forward for Army ladies, also responded with an equalizer, which made the game a balanced game. So yes, the game went on to extra time, where still they had to go head to head, trying to find a decider in the competition. Unfortunately, there was no decider, and the game went on ahead to penalty shootout. So in the penalty shootout, Hazakes lady, the team was able to convert all 5 spots, all 5 penalties into the net. Very composed, very calculated, a very nice, beautiful game played by the Hazakes lady. They scored all 5 goals, all 5 spots. Unfortunately for the Army ladies, they were able to score 3 out of the 5, therefore handing over the FA Cup trophy, Women's FA Cup trophy to Hazakes ladies. So congratulations to Hazakes ladies for winning this FA Cup, this year's edition of the FA Cup competition. Now let's move on to our next story, also a local story, which has to do with Mediama FC. So Mediama has returned to CAF Champions League after sealing second Ghana Premier League title. So yes, Mediama FC SC, won the competition, the Ghana Premier League title once again. This is the second time winning the competition, and now they've secured a spot in the CAF Champions League, which will be played hopefully in the next few months coming on next year, God willing. So yes, Mediama, this is another another thriving campaign during the 2025-2026 competition, where they've won the league title. They did it before, that was the 2023-2024 season. They reached the group stage of the CAF Champions League for the first time, which was in the club's history. They did exceptionally well for the first timers, though it wasn't the best from them. But yes, they actually proved themselves out there. This is the second time they are going for the competition. After winning the Premier League for the second time, they are moving on to the CAF Champions League. Hopefully, they'll be able to do better than they did before. They'll be able to outperform their competitors and in the group stage and qualify to even the finals of the competition and now win the ultimate. So we want to congratulate Mediama SC once again for winning the Ghana Premier League for a second time in the competition and qualifying for the CAF Champions League. Congratulations to them, and we hope to see them do better out there when you go out to the competition. And now to our last story for today, which has to do with transfers. You remember I mentioned Pep Guardiola, there is news out there. That was yesterday. I think the timing for Pep Guardiola's announcement was wrong. But all the same, it's football. There is politics in football, and then the benefactors felt it was the right time to announce. So Pep Guardiola is moving on from Manchester City right after this season, and then he's being succeeded by Enzo Maresca. One of the big names that's been announced is Xabi Alonso, one of the big coaches out there. He was a very good football player, and now he's managing. He managed Leverkusen, who his first time with Leverkusen, they won the Bundesliga after a very long time, and then he moved on to Real Madrid, where he didn't really do well with the team. I mean, he was doing better until one of these politics came in, one of these troubles came in, and then he had to move on from Real Madrid, and he was not managing a team until now. So Chelsea have appointed Xabi Alonso as the manager. So yes, next season, God willing, Xabi Alonso is managing Chelsea for 4 straight years. So he signed for Chelsea for 4 good years. He'll be managing the team. Hopefully, he says that there is great talent in the squad and huge potential at this football club. It will be my great honor to lead it. Now the focus is on hard work, building the right culture, and winning trophies. So yes, he's saying that there's great talent in the team, and then there's a lot that needs to be done, and hopefully something good will come out of his tenure as the manager for Chelsea. We have another story that has to do with the chosen one, Mourinho being assigned to Real Madrid, but he's back to Real Madrid. Hopefully we'll see a very competitive La Liga competition next season. Now, this is for the sports update segment. And before I sign out, we have the birthday segment. Today, I'm handling a birthday segment. So let us know. Let me take you straight to the birthday wishes that we have from our loved ones to their families, their friends, and their people out there. Now, the first birthday wish is, let me read the message. So, happy birthday to my first friend and forever sister. I'm so lucky to have you in my life. Hope this year brings you everything you've been wishing for. So this is from Abina Boaben. Abina, you didn't give us the name of your friend. You should have given us the name of your friend. So I wish her with her name. But then this is from Abina Boaben to you. And then this is from Dusty to, so he says, happy birthday, bro. Today is all about celebrating you, Kofi Dollar. So yes, this is to Kofi Dollar, a real one with a big heart, great energy, and an unstoppable spirit. Watching your journey, your hustle, and the way you carry yourself always inspires the people around us. So this is from Dusty. Now our next wish is to Moses. Happy birthday, Moses. More life, more blessings, more wins. Keep being real and unstoppable. Enjoy your day, bro. This is also from Dusty to Moses. And now to our very own Asante. Today we celebrate not just your birthday, but the amazing energy, dedication, and good vibes you brought to Clock TV. One of the amazing dancers of Clock TV, one of the great cameramen, Asante, we wish you a happy birthday from Clock TV, and we hope you have a very great day out there. Now, this is it for the birthday wishes. This is for the sports update segment. I am your host for today. My name is Benedict Nketia Kwarteng. Thank you for sticking and staying with us. Next is the main segment with Yaya Awono.
Yeah, welcome back to the Koko Digest Morning Show. And if you're just tuning in, it's time for our discussion on gambling, as I mentioned earlier. And yes, May, once again, is the month of mental health awareness. That's why I'm in purple to, commemorate the month. And we have a psychiatrist here with us who's going to be talking to us about gambling and its effects on our mental health. So, my dear friends who like to engage in what we call risk analysis, this is a very serious conversation, and, let's tune in, let's call our friends, text our friends to join and, find something, some information about this, learn something, and then check ourselves just in case we are getting towards addiction. So I have with me here a psychiatrist, as I mentioned. She's in the person of Dr. Josephine Styles Darko. She is also the treasurer for the Psychiatric Association of Ghana, and she's a psychiatrist at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. Good morning, Doc.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us here today to talk about mental health, specifically gambling among the youth. Before we even begin, I would like to give you the opportunity to, introduce yourself a little better, educate us a little about psychiatrists as well.
All right. I think you've already mentioned my name, and you did get that right. So I am Josephine Styles Darko. I am a psychiatrist, like you said. I am a fellow in training, specializing in addiction psychiatry.
Okay.
Yes, I'm with the Psychiatric Association of Ghana, which is the association that brings together all the psychiatrists we have in Ghana. And we work basically on advocacy, service provision, and then also making sure that all the psychiatrists in Ghana have the most recent and current knowledge so that we can give out the best to the populace.
Okay.
Yes. So we do a lot of advocacy, like we are here this morning to talk about gambling. Psychiatrists are medical doctors who specialize in mental health.
Okay.
So they treat mental illnesses. Yes. So usually people confuse psychiatrists and psychologists.
Yeah.
So there are two different professions. The psychiatrists are most of the time medical doctors, and psychologists, though some of them may be medical doctors, are usually not.
Okay.
So psychologists specialize in psychotherapy, which we usually will call therapy. So they do a lot of talk therapy, training, and things like that. And we do more of the medication and other therapies that go along with the treatment. So we do work very closely together.
All right. Thank you so much. So I think when I was also finding out some information, some background information, I read that we do not have as many psychiatrists in the country as we would need. Not even, let's say, a ratio of, we have about 30 million, citizens. We don't have up to half that number that can serve the country. How true is that?
Half is quite an ambitious figure, because half of 30 million is 15 million. Yes, the psychiatrists in Ghana currently, we are less than 100. Yes, currently we are less than 100. So it tells you.
Does that reflect a sort of pressure on the field?
Oh, yes, yes. I mean, for the number of psychiatrists that we have, there are psychologists are a bit more than us. We also have mental health nurses, community psychiatric officers, but in total, mental health professionals are not as many as we would like us to be for such a population. So there is a huge pressure. There are areas in Ghana that you would not find any psychiatrists. Most of us are in the south. Yes, so we have a few in the northern belt. So it's really impacts on the care. Sometimes people struggle to even seek care, and some specialized care you may have to travel
all the way here,
all the way down. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So then then we have a lot of issues in the country. But that notwithstanding, coming to the conversation on gambling, what is gambling? When we usually, for most of us, when we hear gambling, we are thinking about the sports betting and is it cha-cha or spa or something. Can you give us a more definitive, explanation of gambling?
All right. So when we talk about gambling, we are talking about placing a wager on something, a game or an event that you don't have control over. Okay. So a game of chance, nobody can tell what will happen, but you place money or something valuable on that event, predicting whatever you think would be the outcome. So once you place a wager, money, something of value, on an event with an unpredictable outcome, then you are gambling.
Right. So in this case, we've seen that gambling has actually risen among the youth in Ghana over the past few years. I don't want to say decade, but, give or take, in the last decade, gambling has actually become more rampant. What do you think is the cause?
Yes. So as you rightly said, we have noticed that gambling has become commonplace in Ghana now. Years back, you would hardly see any advert on TV that has to do with gambling. But I think that a few years back, there were the introduction of some slot machines in some areas in Ghana. Now, with smartphones becoming very common, internet is everywhere. We have the internet betting as well. So it's not just the sports betting or the, the lotto that we see in the kiosk and all that. It's gone beyond that. So we have the online betting, which is not even just sports, by the way. People bet on so many different things, apart from football. Right now, people can sit in their rooms in Ghana and bet on chicken fights somewhere else, in the world. Yes. So it has become very common, especially because of the digitalization. Internet is everywhere. Now, money, it's become easy. We have electronic transactions. You don't need to go and withdraw money from the bank to walk to the lotto kiosk, you see. So all these things have contributed to gambling becoming more common in our society.
Okay, so yes, now into the mental health conversation itself. How does gambling addiction, when does gambling become an addiction?
All right. Yes, so gambling in itself is more or less like a recreational activity. People can engage in certain gambling activities just for the fun of it, to while away time and all that. But when the gambling starts to affect the individual's life, and what I mean by affect the individual's life, the person now realizes that they are spending a lot more time betting or gambling, or they are spending a lot more money gambling or betting. They are beginning to lose control. So, I'm going to just take 5 cedis. They go, and then before they know it, 5,000 is gone. They begin to prioritize gambling. Everything they are doing now is focused on gambling. When these things are happening, it means that the gambling is becoming a problem. Okay. So they lose money, and we have to make that money back. So it becomes a challenge. Sometimes they get angry when somebody talks about their gambling habits. They may begin to lie about the gambling. So when those things start happening, then the person is getting into problem gambling.
All right. So in this case, how then does gambling addiction then affect the mental health of young people, especially when it comes to their emotions and psychology?
All right. So before I go to how it affects young people, let me say a little bit about gambling addiction in itself. So yes, sometimes people do not realize that gambling in itself can become an addiction. But gambling falls under the category of what we call behavioral addictions.
Okay.
So what most people know about is the substance addiction, but gambling in itself can also become an addiction for an individual. And we must know that it triggers certain parts of the brain common to what the substances trigger.
Yeah.
Okay, so once you stake a bet and you win, that's
good. The
you know
dopamine hits,
that's yes, that's feeling that you have, that euphoria that you have. The same reward pathway in the brain that the substances trigger, dopamine triggers same. So the more you keep at it, then the addiction bit comes in. Yes. So once somebody gets addicted to gambling, now it comes along with a lot of challenges. This is, remember we are saying that your stakes are money, something valuable.
Yeah.
So as you lose, you're losing money, you're losing something valuable. And that can cause a lot of stress on the individual. Sometimes when somebody stakes a bet, you're waiting for the outcome. There's a lot of anxiety that goes along with that. Once you win or lose, your emotions again will switch. So that whole process of staking the bet, winning or losing, and you doing so repeatedly takes a toll on your mental health. If you're constantly under stress, okay, because you have lost so much, you need to make the money back.
Yeah.
Sometimes when gambling becomes an addiction, people borrow a lot to gamble. Sometimes they may steal. People may take funds from company accounts, monies that were entrusted to them for groups and things like that. And it all goes into the gambling. So once this person is like, I've lost this money, how do I make it back? That stress, that anxiety, it can lead the person into depression. It can lead the person into anxiety disorders. And sometimes just to relieve that anxiety and that stress, they may even end up using substances and then getting into substance addiction as well. Yes. So these are some of the ways in which people, gambling can affect the mental health of people.
Okay. So again, with how it affects people, I heard someone say that with what gambling has put him through, he can never suffer broken hearts when it comes to his human relationships. What does that say about how badly gambling can affect a person's mental health?
Yeah, so like I explained earlier, when somebody is hooked onto gambling, it does affect the individual. First of all, even the relationship that the person is talking about, when somebody is really into gambling and they have problem gambling or gambling addiction, their relationship with other people is affected because the individual is at that point where they have to deceive you to get your money so that they can gamble with it, or they're stealing from you. So imagine a relative, a friend, a spouse, or somebody that is constantly deceiving you, lying to you, stealing from you. Already there's a challenge with relationship with other people. And sometimes because they want to hide their gambling habits and all that, they may also isolate.
Okay.
Yes, so it's really, really affects the individual and takes a toll. So I get where the person is coming from, because imagine putting all your hopes on something and then it doesn't go well. You know, you lose all that money. That feeling is like you've lost something valuable, something you love. So that's where I think that comparison is coming from, that what gambling has done to him is comparable.
Right.
Yeah.
So with the issue of even how the gambling affects the youth especially, you realize that some people also tend to go as far as suicide. I think there was some news at a point. I think it was a Momo vendor who took the day sales into all of that. Does it go that far?
Yes, it does go that far sometimes. So as we're talking about mental health effects of gambling, apart from the fact that the gambling leading to mental illnesses like depression, anxiety disorder in itself. Once depression becomes very severe, anxiety disorder, sometimes even the substance use that is associated with it, the person can start having suicidal thoughts. Okay. If they look at the debts that they have, how can I ever repay this money? You know, they think about what will happen when my family finds out, when the workplace finds out that I have taken these funds. And sometimes all these thoughts can lead them into having suicidal thoughts, and sometimes even going ahead to attempt suicide. Sometimes too, suicidal behavior can be impulsive. You know, if somebody stakes a very high risk bet, you know, they put a lot of money and then they just see the money disappear in that yes, in that split second. Sometimes they can become very impulsive. I mean, it's gone. It's like everything, all hope is lost, and then the person can immediately attempt suicide on impulse. Yes, so gambling, one of the negative consequences, yes, it includes suicidal thoughts.
All right. So is there a difference between how gambling would affect a young person as opposed to how it would affect an actual adult?
All right. So not necessarily. I mean, once somebody gets into gambling, whether they are young or they're old, it's just that sometimes for certain age groups in itself, the risk of things like suicidal attempts and things like that are a bit higher already. And then when the effects of gambling add on to it, then it makes it a bit more. But yes, younger people can go through the challenges of gambling the same way adults can go through the challenges of gambling. But to talk about younger people and adults, gambling in itself, legally, should be adults, 18 years and above. It is illegal for children to gamble. But with the rise of gambling, I mean, this one local research has shown us that children are gambling 10 years, sometimes even younger. They are gambling. Sometimes you see this, how do they call it, casse? You know, that tabletop football. And very young children, their lunch money, you know, uncle gives them some 1 CD and then they've already started with that. So they play, somebody loses their 1 CD, you know, so as it goes on. Now, sometimes in some communities, they have the slot machines. They put in a coin and then you pull and you wait for it 3 in a row and things like that. So yes, children are also going through it. And then they also have these same consequences, the depression, the anxiety, the substance use, the suicidal thoughts, the same as for adults.
So the one that they put up a small structure or a tabletop something, then they have these cards, then they are mixing it for you. Is that also something we can term as gambling?
Yeah. So whatever it is, once you're placing a wager, once there's money, something of value, so this is what I'm putting on it. If I win, I get more of it. If I lose, then it's gone. Then it's gambling. It doesn't matter whatever the game is. Once there's a wager on it, once you're putting money or something of value at risk for that event, that game, whatever it is, then it's gambling.
Okay. So what are some of the early warning signs that someone is developing a gambling addiction?
All right. So I think we've touched a bit on that. So if the individual realizes that they are losing control, so you say, okay, I'm just going to stake 5 CDs on this game, and that's it. And then you pick your phone, 5 CD, 30 minutes later, 50 CD is gone, 1,000 CDs. You know, you're losing control. You're no longer in control of what is happening in the game. Or sometimes the time, I'm just going to do this for 30 minutes and then I'll get back to work. Before you know it, 12 hours, the whole day is gone.
It's been gambling.
Yes, there's a problem. It's coming up, okay? If the person realizes that they are thinking about gambling all the time, you're sitting at work, you're thinking, hey, Champions League is coming up, you know, you're thinking about some hockey game in some corner of the world, you know, you've never been before. So every time your mind seems to be centered around gambling, that's a warning sign. Okay. If you realize that you begin lying to people to gamble or about your gambling habits, then the chances are that it's getting bad. Okay, or you begin to steal. Sometimes maybe 100 cedis from your dad, from your wife, from your husband, you know. Yes, and yes, now I said your husband. Let me say women also gamble. So it's not just about men. Sometimes when we're talking about gambling, everybody is thinking that, oh, men, yes, but women also gamble. It's on the phone. Everybody is on it. And some of these games are actually designed to attract women, you know. Yes, so women also gamble. So once the person is losing control, lying about it, the person begins to prioritize the gambling. Everything is centered around the gambling. These are some of the warning signs. And they realize that, okay, these are the negative effects that I've had from gambling in the past, but they still go ahead to gamble again. Then
yes. They are developed. Okay. Yeah. So now, what about people who are, like, you see, when we hear about gambling these days, we hear about it because of the fact that the unemployment rate is really high. So the youth or younger persons want means into getting quick money to survive. Now, let's streamline it a little. When we find people who are trying to just make ends meet, so they have about, like you say, 5 cedis. They know that, okay, if I get all these 8 odds, it will make me, let's say, about some 5,000 cedis, which I can use to handle affairs at home. How then is the effect on them, you know, more severe as compared to someone who's just doing it for recreational reasons?
Yes. So gambling in itself, to start off with, is not unemployment. Okay. It is not, you see, so when people begin to view gambling as a source of income or a source of making money, then it's a problem. Because it's a game of chance. It's a risk. You can lose everything. And this is not something that, there's no guarantee. Yeah. You know, if you are employed, at the end of the month, you'll get a salary. It's almost guaranteed. You know that you get an alert. Gambling is not like that. And there's always a winner and there's always a loser. And as we say, the house never loses, no matter how it goes, you know. So we have to have that at the back of our minds, that gambling is not an employment. It is not a way to make money, a consistent way to make money. So once you are gambling because you don't have a job and this is how you make your money, there's a problem with that misconception. Okay. So the effects of gambling, it doesn't really matter. If somebody has money, maybe the person has 5 million and they lose 5,000, they may be fine. It's okay for them. But you put your last 5 cedis, Charlie, that 5 cedis can be it for you. Yeah. So sometimes, I mean, people do gamble because of poverty and, like you said, economic pressures. But it's not the same, because if somebody is doing it for leisure, they're just having fun. And if it's for leisure, you don't bet when you lose would affect you.
Right. So this is a reminder for us to send our questions to the WhatsApp number displayed on our screens, or to the YouTube and Facebook live stream. I will ask your questions here. When the phone lines are opened, I would also alert you so you can call and, you know, directly ask your questions. So, now, do these signs also differ among, you know, various people, or it's a one-size-fits-all sign when, you know, we are realizing that someone has a gambling addiction?
Okay, so most often than not, if somebody has a gambling addiction, you would see these signs that I have spoken about. However, when it comes to the comorbid issues like the depression, the anxiety, the suicide, the substance use, that may differ depending, again, on the individual, the factors around them, their biological makeup and all that. Yes, that can differ. But for the signs of addiction, I mean, that will be there for everyone. Okay,
so why do many people, I mean, we've mentioned the financial risks, but why do many people still tend to gambling?
All right, so Sometimes just that thought, oh, I was very close to winning, so the next one may just be my chance. And then when some people gamble to a certain extent, they begin to chase what they have lost. So we call it chasing their losses. So they begin to, I need to make my money back. I can't allow these people to just take my money. So now all they are doing is trying to recover what they have lost. Okay. And by so doing, they end up losing more.
Okay. So can gambling-related stress or financial losses also lead to conditions like the depression, aside the fact that when they are already in it, they're feeling that way? Can it cause an actual disorder that you get a patient and he's in because he now has maybe an anxiety disorder and needs medication as a result of gambling?
Yes. Yes, it can do that.
And are there many cases in Ghana?
Oh yes, there are quite a number of cases in Ghana. So the depression, the anxiety, and sometimes the person comes in because of the depression, because of the anxiety, because they've attempted suicide. And then in probing to see what triggered it, where it came from, then you find out that this person has a challenge with gambling. Sometimes they are in so much debt that they are unable to come out of, and these lead to actual diagnosis that need to be treated.
Okay, so we're about to wrap up. Now coming to more of the solution conversations. Now, what are some of the practical interventions that maybe our families, our communities, and support systems, even our religious institutions, and even the government can also implement to help to reduce the gambling addiction issues we have in Ghana?
All right. So it starts from prevention. As I said, now children are gambling, which is illegal, but it's happening. So for society, for parents, for people in the community, it is important that we educate ourselves about the negative consequences, what gambling can lead to, the effects. People must know. So like we're doing here today, people must know that this thing can get to a point where it becomes problematic and it can lead to addiction. Yes. And then also we must be more observant, especially of children. Let's talk about these things. Sometimes just having a chat with your child, so you're watching TV, these adverts come up. Find out, what do they think about gambling? So that you can correct them. Sometimes, the adverts are so nicely packaged. It's a business. So you may need to explain to the child, let them know what it can do should they get involved in it. You don't allow their peers to do that for you. Yes. And then also, we also need to be able to let people know that, yes, gambling is there. It can be a recreational activity, but it is not a means for a livelihood. You cannot make a livelihood out of gambling. Yes. Inadvertently, you would end up with issues if you do that. And then also the Gaming Commission of Ghana, which is the body in charge of regulation and licensing and all that, they do some education as well. They would let you know, we talk about responsible gambling. Yes. So if you're going to engage in gambling, you have to know that set limits, monetary limits, time limits, try to stick to these limits. If you realize the warning signs we are talking about, you can reach out to the Gaming Commission. We have self-exclusion, so they can block you from some of these.
But these same people, wouldn't they just buy another phone and create another account? Or that's in severe cases?
Yes. So yes, like rightly said, some people do that. Once you are blocked, then they go for the block themselves then because of the triggers. Yeah. So that is why that is not enough. Once you get the self-exclusion, you need to get help if it is severe enough. So you ask what religious bodies, families can do. If you realize that your family member has such a challenge, talk to them. Don't judge them. Sometimes that is where it is, the shouting, the scolding, they won't open up. So talk to them, help them to seek help. okay, if they get money from you, limit the money that they are getting from you. If you can take control of their account, do that. Because when the triggers come, unfortunately, remember, they've lost control. So these are some of the practical ways that we can help such people. Religious bodies should talk about it. Let's make the conversation common, and then we can all support them together.
All right. So speaking of help, so where can a family or a young person who is dealing with gambling, whether maybe close to addiction, get help in Ghana?
All right. So first of all, for the self-exclusion that I mentioned, if somebody wants to be excluded, they can reach the Gaming Commission.
Okay.
There's a toll-free number, 0800 45 45 45.
Okay. 0800 45 45 45.
Yes.
So 345.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Gaming Commission
Okay.
and then you ask for the self-exclusion. That can be
Okay.
done.
Okay.
Some of the sites as well, you can actually ask that you are blocked on the site.
Okay.
Yes. And then the individual can also download some apps that block gambling websites or channels from popping up on your phone. Also, if they need help, they can reach out to the Mental Health Authority toll-free line, 0800 678 678, and they can also be directed. But all the psychiatric hospitals in Ghana, Kolebu Teaching Hospital, where I work, you can get help. Accra Psychiatric Hospital, Pantan Psychiatric Hospital, Ankerful Psychiatric Hospital. And there are some private self-help groups, gambling anonymous groups and things like that. So if you reach out, you would be able to get help.
So what would you now, wrapping up, what would you say to a young person who's listening or watching us about gambling, that, the key takeaway?
All right. So what I want to say to someone listening to us, that first of all, remember that gambling is not a means of making money, or it's not an employment. It's not a sustainable way to make money. Okay, so bet responsibly, like they would say, set limits, know the warning signs. And if you realize any of these warning signs, talk to a loved one and seek professional help.
All right. Okay. So bet responsibly, and if you realize some of these signs, talk to someone and seek the necessary help. So this is the end of this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm hoping that maybe we'll get you again, this same month to go deeper into this conversation, because gambling seems to be quite prevalent among the youth here in Ghana, and it also affects our mental health, whether or not we admit it. And a lot of people are going through all kinds of, severe depressions and, anxiety because they are probably in debt. So this is a conversation to help us to try to go back into ourselves and check, are we betting responsibly? Are we engaging in these recreational activities responsibly or not? We'll see you once again on Thursday morning. Do have a good day ahead.